Chapter 37-40? Second more. I saw the sword unparalleled in the siege of the two masters. The sword was soaring, and the terrible sword light was cut out one after another. That sword light is either violent, or misty like a cloud, or lightning fast. Relying on swordsmanship against two masters at the same time with their own strength, not only are they not in the slightest disadvantage, they even completely suppress these two masters. Yes, it is suppression. Although the axe dominates the axe, although it is domineering and powerful, it is not too subtle. Before Jian Wushuang hit him, he could gain the upper hand. Now he does not choose to hit him. Instead, he fights with exquisite sword skills. That sword is more than a sword, and the axe dominator can only resist with difficulty. As for the pupil, his strength is much weaker than that of the dominating axe. It is even simpler for him to use his sword. He directly crushes it with thunder-like means. Even with one enemy and two opponents, these two major dominators are still not his opponents. Too strong. Suppressing these two masters with one enemy and two? This is the true strength of the Lord of the Blood Sword? The masters of the many rules watching the battle around, their heads were all in a bun. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that the strength of a ruler would be so strong. Now think about what the axe master and pupil master just said, saying that sword unparalleled is just the master of the rules, the body protection ability should not be strong, you can find the opportunity to kill him, now it is simply joke. The two of them joined forces and were crushed by Jian Wushuang's front. How could they find a chance to kill Jian Wushuang? Even if Jian Wushuang's body protection is not strong, can they meet Jian Wushuang's body? How could that be? How could this be? The axe master shouted with an incredible look on his face. This boy, his swordplay is so terrible. When he fought with me 3,000 years ago, swordplay had not reached such a terrible level. Hitomi also screamed. He did not know that during these 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang had been enlightened under the sword stone. Although most of the enlightenment was to perfect the trick of guarding the earth, while he was enlightened, his understanding of kendo was always present ascended, his swordplay has also been enhanced. In addition, 3,000 years ago when Jian Wushuang fought against him, he didn't do his best. Without all the effort, the pupil can't resist it. Earth and earthquake. Jian Wushuang's terrible strength stunned everyone present. Those rulers who watched the surroundings had some illusions about the strongest flying treasure, but now they have seen the horror power revealed by Jian Wushuang. Even the two masters joined forces directly by Jian Wushuang. Crushing. This scene made those rulers have no idea about the black wings. The two masters joined forces and were both suppressed by the Lord of the Blood Sword. Could it be that the third lord had to come in person to hope to subdue the Lord of the Blood Sword? The third master? Everyone moved inside. But just then, "Come, here comes the third master." An exclaimed voice suddenly sounded. The crowd immediately heard the sound, and saw a blue figure in the void near the front of the battlefield. It was a beautiful woman in a blue pigment robe. This beautiful woman had a cold face, as if she could not eat the fireworks on the earth, and a touch of divine power spread from her. Although this breath of divine power is very weak, we can detect the breath of this divine power. All the people present are physically and mentally shocked. Even in the battlefield, Jian Wushuang, dominating axe master, and Hitomi master, who were fighting fiercely together, all changed dramatically when they noticed this breath of God. Nothing else, just because this breath of divine power is much stronger than the divine breath of general higher masters. There is no doubt that the Comer is a top master. Herald. It is the supreme master of Tianqi Star Realm. It turned out to be her? The body of many rulers around the place shuddered. The Supreme Master, unlike many masters in this star domain, has a long existence and a long history of fame. She is a master who has not risen for a long time, and so far, it is only 1,000,000 years. It has only taken her hundreds of thousands of years since she was born to practice and now ranks among the top masters. No doubt she is a real genius. Tianqi Astral Realm, like the Taichu Divine Realm, is only a third-level astral realm that has not yet fully evolved. Easy to provoke. After all, it's a real top master. In this star field, aside from His Holiness, the top masters who are known and still remain in this star field will never exceed 5. Such a master is certainly awesome. Ha, His Majesty has come, and now you are not worried that no one has subdued you. Master Tong stared at Jian Wushuang and sneered. Well, even if the Supreme Master can subdue me, I will only give him the black wings. As for the pupil and the axe master, you two don't think about it. Jian Wushuang is sneer. Dominating the axe, and Hitomi's eyes immediately sink. Of course they longed for the black wings. However, what Jian Wushuang said is also true. The The Supreme Master has arrived, and the top dominates the strength. Although it is possible to subdue it, even if it is subdued, Jian Wushuang will definitely only give the black wings to the Supreme Master. Give them both. And if the black feathers are in the hands of His Holiness, they are afraid that they have no desire to fight. Grab the treasure from the top masters? That was a joke. You are the Lord of the Blood Sword. The Supreme Master stood on the edge of the battlefield and did not enter the battlefield for the first time, but stared coldly at Jian Wushuang. It's me. The three masters, Jian Wushuang and Doha, also stopped. Jian Wushuang smiled. The Supreme Master also came for that wing? Yes. His Excellency nodded. The strongest flying treasure is not something you can own. Give up that wing. This promises to give you one of the strongest attack treasures and one pinnacle suppression, a pinnacle soul defense, a pinnacle flying treasure as compensation. Oh. Jian Wushuang frowned and nodded secretly. I have to say that this young man is quite kind, and he didn't take the shot directly at the beginning, but he was willing to exchange it for the treasure. Although she is willing to pay the highest price, not as good as one of the strongest flying treasures, it is also very good. But unfortunately, I finally got the chance to get one of the strongest flying treasures. Of course, Jian Wushuang would not let it go so easily. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3741. The first is more. Sir, I'm sorry, this flying strongest treasure is also very useful to me, so I can't promise you. Jian Wushuang. Don't you promise? The Supreme Master's face remained unchanged. Then I can only be sorry. Why, the Supreme Master of the Supreme Master, even today, regardless of the face of the ruler of me, cannot shoot? Jian Wushuang laughed. You are really just the master of the rules, but in terms of combat power, you are suppressed by the combination of the Dominator and the Hitomi Masters. This kind of combat power is not far from the top masters. This block shoots at you, and how can it be considered disregarding face? His Holiness' voice was cold. But after all, this seat is the top master and I will not bully you. So, you take 3 shots from me. If you are not hit by me after 3 shots, this seat will immediately turn around and leave. Oh. Jian Wushuang frowned, but his heart was amused. This youth appears to be affectionate. As long as he was not seriously injured under the 3 shots, he left for convenience. But in fact, the really smart people know that the 3 shots of the Supreme Master will inevitably make every effort to fully burst out the strongest combat power of her top master. Under these 3 shots, if the sword unparalleled is unstoppable, and is directly beheaded or severely wounded, the Supreme Master will still continue to shoot. But if these 3 shots were blocked by the sword Wushuang but not severely damaged, even the strongest attack could not severely damage the sword Wushuang, it means that the Supreme Master could not kill the sword Wushuang at all. Of course she can only leave. In other words, the Supreme Master said these words not to open the internet at all, but to speak nicely. If she is really jealous of her top master's identity, then it should be said that within 3 shots the sword is undead and she immediately turned around and left. And just not to be hit hard by her. Can be severely damaged, indicating that the Supreme Master has the ability to kill Jinshuang. Can't be badly hit, and the Supreme Master can do nothing about the sword unparalleled. You Lord, what you say is so nice. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly but then nodded. Okay, let me see how strong the top master is. Jian Wushuang also has a glimmer of expectation in his heart. The top master he has also contacted, that is the Tianping Master of Beihai Palace. At that time, Tianping's master had also shot at him, but that time Tianping's master had been reserved, and he had not given up all his strength at all. In addition, at that time Jian Wushuang's own strength was still relatively weak, and he couldn't fully feel the gap between himself and Tianping. But now it's different. Sir, cast your marksmanship. Jian Wushuang held Huangquan's Excalibur with one hand, and his divine power surged wildly. In the face of a top master, he naturally will not have the slightest indifference, and with all his strength, the power given by the laws of the universe has erupted to the extreme. The Supreme Master looked indifferently, turned his hand, and a silver spear appeared in her hand. This silver spear is 2 meters long. At the moment it appeared in the hands of the Supreme Lord, a cold chill swept away instantly. The surrounding void was immediately condensed into ice under the cold attack. Become extremely cold. So cold gun. Jian Wushuang glanced at the silver spear in the hands of the Supreme Lord. There is no doubt that the silver spear in the hands of the Supreme Lord is the strongest magic weapon. Pure power is never weaker than its own Huangquan Excalibur. Lord of the Blood Sword, optimistic, this is the first shot. The Supreme Master's voice dropped, and the silver spear in his hand stabbed straight ahead. The silver light flashed, and Sin Lung's spear swept across the void. Wherever he passed, the space instantly condensed into ice. The heavens and the earth were immediately darkened and dark. And in this dim world, there is only this dazzling silver light, which is extremely dazzling and exudes a cold luster. So fast. There was a flash of surprise in Jianwu's eyes. The shot was too fast. Almost instantaneously pierced through the void before him. He didn't even have time to carefully sense the power of the gun. Too late to think, sword Wushuang directly out of the sword. Spark burning sun. Jian Wushuang's divine power exploded, and the sky-cutting technique was immediately cast, and his strength burst to the extreme at this moment. The violent Jingguang cut out instantly, colliding with that silver light with the horror of power. Clang. With a loud noise, the sword trembled without a figure, and the figure was backed up several steps in succession. Each step was heavy and powerful, trampled on the void. But there is no doubt that this gun Jian Wushuang is the next. Moreover, he relied on swordsmanship to resist it. Although it was completely suppressed, it was finally blocked and there was not much power to impact him. Yes, you can rely on sword power to defend this gun from the front. This has proven that your strength is the top even among the high masters. However, it is not enough to rely on this strength alone. Look. His Holiness said indifferently. Sir, no need to talk nonsense, I have already taken your first shot. Next, let me look at your second shot. Jian Wushuang said with some excitement. The first shot that His Holiness had just cast had already amazed Jian Wushuang's heart, and he was indeed the top master. Just that shot, it is clear that the Supreme Master was only casually exhibiting, and did not show much strength at all, but despite this he still easily defeated and completely suppressed the star-burning sun he cast. The second shot that the Supreme Master is about to cast is definitely stronger. Second shot, you are optimistic. There was a trace of coldness in the blue eyes of the Supreme Master. Before the first shot he just stabbed a shot at the front very randomly, but this second shot, during the process of casting, wow. A lot of ice condensed in front of her out of thin air. A suffocating forest cold chill spread. The Lord's silver spear as well as the palm of her holding the lance, were covered with frost, and a cold air spit out from the Lord's mouth. Ha! The spear is another stab. This thorn ka. The surrounding area is completely condensed into ice and snow. The silver lance also turns into a huge ice cone, carrying a terrifying penetration force. Chao Jian Wushuang stabbed. This shot, simply talking about power, is definitely several times stronger than the first shot just now. Swords burst into sharp eyes. He held Huang Quan's Excalibur at the same time with both hands. Wow! A sword is cut out and the void is completely chaotic. There was no roar or explosive sound, and the sword that Wu Shuang cut out at this moment did not seem to have such terrible power. Of course. The magic sword fell, but an icy sword light directly cut the space relentlessly, ruthlessly tore everything in front, tore the ice and snow, and ruthlessly chopped the huge ice cone. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3742. Second more. Huang Quan. The strongest sword created by Jian Wushuang. If the sun-burning sun is extremely violent, and the explosive power bursts out, then this falling Huang Quan is cold and ruthless. This cold and ruthless sword seems to cut through everything that is encountered. No one, nothing can block its edge. In this sword there is a breath of the law of the universe. It is precisely because of the existence of a breath of the laws of the universe that this sword might be so terrifying. In the early days of the divine realm, Jian Wushuang fought against Emperor 13 Kendo. In the end, Jian Wushuang defeated Emperor 13's sword system and won the victory. But the distance of that battle has now passed more than 8,000 years, and in these 8,000 years, Jian Wushuang first learned 5,000 years under that town's monument, and then studied under the sword stone for 3,000 years. His progress in Kendo was huge, and the mastery of the laws of the universe was more intense. The power of nature as a sword is far from being comparable. This sword. The pupil who watched the battle around, saw the sword skill that Jian Wushuang was casting at the moment, and his face changed suddenly. He clearly remembered that 3,000 years ago, Jian Wushuang cast his sword and vomited blood directly. You know, he has the strongest armor of the treasure, but he still vomits blood, but imagine how good the sword might be. But now seeing the sword unparalleled again, the power of swordsmanship is even stronger than before? I have to say that the sword is truly powerful. At least the domineering axe dominated that he could not perform such a level of attack. However, what Jian Wushuang is facing now is, after all, a real top master. The top dominator's combat power, but you are far stronger than the higher master. I saw Nathan's cold and horrifying ice cone blasting, and that swordless pair of cold and ruthless Jingguang came into direct contact. Ha! The sound of divine power squeezing the impact sounded, and the final result was still the sword light of Jian Wushuang being crushed. The cold and ruthless sword light also supported for a period of time, but it completely dissipated, while the ice cone still carried good power and directly hit the sword's godless body. Jian Wu's stature was violent, and the whole person was blasted out. After a while, it was difficult to stand firm in the void again. After standing firmly, Jian Wushuang raised his head and stared at his holiness, and he couldn't help but admire. It is indeed the top master, it is amazing. Jian Wushuang is truly amazing. One of his most terrible and confident swords is Huang Quan's. After all, this is a sword with the breath of the laws of the universe. The mighty power is outrageous, but unfortunately the top master is much stronger than him simply in divine power, and the supreme master's shot was just as powerful. Therefore he is still being crushed. However, the crushing returned to crushing, but the power left by that shot did not cause him much damage. Normally, Jian Wushuang first has the peak of the Arcana Warframe, and at the same time he has cultivated the supreme immortal Shen body. The body is comparable to the arcane, indestructible. If that shot is not offset by most of his power, and impact words on his body might also hurt him. But with the blocking of the sword, the damage that this gun brought him was minimal, and Jian Wushuang didn't care. My shot, although he resisted with his sword, weakened most of the power, but still had more than 30% of the power directly impacted on his body, but under the impact of more than 30% of the power, he turned a little not at all? The breath of divine power on his body has hardly weakened? The Supreme Master Lu Mei finally wrinkled. The two masters watching around, including the masters of many rules, were surprised when they saw this scene. How is that possible? The Lord of the Blood Sword was clearly hit by the Supreme Master's marksmanship, but why was he not injured? The gun power, although the sword of the Lord of the Blood Sword offset more than half of it, there are still more than 30% of the power left. The top dominates more than 30% of the power. Under normal circumstances, the higher masters have to bear and have to be injured, even severely damaged. The Lord of the Blood Sword and the ruler of the rules are as good as nothing? Isn't he saying that he is a ruler, whereas the body not strong? But now it seems that his body is much stronger than the general master. There was a loud noise that rang through the world. Indeed, in the past, almost everyone believed that although Jian Wushuang's attack power was comparable to that of higher masters, and even the highest among the higher masters, his protection ability should not be stronger. It is because of this that the Dominator and Dojo masters feel that there is a hint of hope to be able to slay the sword unparalleled. But now, in this scene, where does the Lord of the Blood Sword look like he is weak in body protection? The top master has a positive impact of more than 30% power. He relies on the gods to resist, but he has nothing at all. Is this kid in disguise? He has been seriously injured but is pretending to be nothing? A ruler could not help but say. But as soon as his words were finished, there were a lot of fool-like eyes around him. Yes, demeanor can be disguised, but the breath of divine power on the body can't be disguised. If a person is severely wounded, the breath of divine power on his body will inevitably weaken a great deal, but the breath of divine power on Jian Wushuang will be slightly weakened. The Lord of the Blood Sword, it seems that this seat is a contempt for you. You, a ruler, not only attack and kill powerful enough to match the High Master, even the body protection ability, you are much stronger than the General Master. This body protection ability, the top dominates the following. I am afraid that no one can do anything for you. Qingzuan Shin said. Her words immediately attracted the approval of many powerful people around. Indeed, when Jian Wushuang became the most important of the supreme immortal mystery, he was destined to be rampant in the higher masters, but still cannot be ignored in the face of the top masters. They want to get the strongest treasure of his armor for him. If he has the strongest armor of the treasure warrior, and the sturdy body of the sword unparalleled, then even if he encounters the top master, he will have no fear at all. Lord of the Blood Sword, next, this seat is about to fire a third shot. The Supreme Master shook the silver spear in the handshake, and his eyes became sharper. This seat says it can do it. If it can't damage you, this seat will immediately turn away and never leave again. There is a slight entanglement. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3743. The first is more. Bring it on. Jian Wushuang tightened the Huangquan Excalibur in his hands, full of expectations. The two shots previously cast by the Supreme Master were outrageous. Jian Wushuang had already performed the strongest sword skill, and was still crushed by the front. Now how strong is the third shot that the Supreme Master is about to cast? The masters of the many rules watching the battle around also looked forward. They also want to see the strongest shot of His Holiness. Got punished? The Supreme Master chuckled coldly, humming. The vast pure power that only the top masters possessed instantly swept out. At the moment when this pure divine power swept out, the breath of divine power exuded from the Supreme Master was weakened a little more than before. Although not much weakened, it was weakened. Obviously, the strongest shot will be cast, and the Supreme Master is not easy. The world is silent. Under everyone's attention, the Supreme Lord slowly stretched out the silver spear in his hand. The silver spear turned into a silver lightning, but suddenly it exploded under the confluence of majestic power. The rumbling was originally a normal-sized silver spear, but at this moment it was zoomed in at a horrible speed, and it stretched a long length in a blink of an eye. Easily pierced through the space straight toward the sword Wushuang. For a moment the whole world sounded a harsh sound boom. Jian Wushuang stood in the void in front of the spear, saw the spear zoomed in, and then stabbed towards himself. At this moment he seemed to be caught in a violent storm. His silver robe and hair were all blown. Hunting sounded. So terrible power. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly, his heart was very surprised. He just took the first shot and the second shot of His Holiness. Although the two shots are also arrogant, far beyond his own ability, at least the sword is unmatched. But the third shot, the moment he stabbed him, gave him a feeling that he could not compete. This gun can completely crush everything. Although he also created a good sword, but no matter how much power he broke out in the face of this gun, there is only a complete defeat. Jian Wushuang also immediately understood that with this shot, he could not use his sword skills to confront him. But being unable to compete directly does not mean that Jian Wushuang cannot resist. Such a terrible and powerful shot just made me examine the achievements of my 3,000 years. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly, his eyes flashed. Guardian of the Earth. The sword is unparalleled. Huang Quan's Excalibur seems to be just cut out randomly, but it has a special mystery. Buzzing. A large number of swords meanwhile, with a large amount of earth-colored energy, it instantly rises. The protection of the earth is based on the rules of the earth. Earth-heavy nostalgic. Cooperating with Jian Wushuang's accomplishments on the kendo. Instantly, a heavy earth-colored sword domain was formed. Sword Realm, Earth Sword Realm. And after the emergence of a major area of sword area, the second and third major areas of sword area immediately formed. Almost in a blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang gathered the sword area of 12 major areas in front of him. The land sword domain is the product of my perfect combination of the rules of the earth and the origin of the kendo universe. It has a very strong body protection ability. A single major land sword domain is logically enough to easily resist the full blow of the primary master. I, at the same time, condensed the 12 major sword areas at the same time, plus the endless mood that I incorporated into this style. I would like to see if I can stop this shot. Jian Wuzhong Zhongjing Man's flash. Boom. The long silver spear containing the mighty power of destroying the heavens and the earth finally stabbed. The first time I stabbed on the earthy sword area directly in front of Jian Wushuang. In just an instant, the 12 major sword areas collapsed to sevenfold and collapsed more than half. Immediately followed again. After two sounds, the 8th and 9th major sword areas also collapsed. But starting from the 10th major sword area, the momentum of that spear's impact slowed down significantly. The 10th major territory of the sword was still defeated. The 11th major area of swordsmanship persisted for a while and was finally defeated as well. At the 12th level, which is the last major sword area, the spear still hit the 12th major sword area for a period of time, but in the end, it failed to completely defeat the 12th major sword area, the huge spear. He paused in the void and his power was completely exhausted. The long silver spear has dissipated and reappeared in the hands of the Supreme Master. But at this moment, the Supreme Master Qing was horrified and unbelievable. Not only her, but also the Axe Masters, Hitomi Masters, and the many rule masters who watched the surrounding battles were completely annihilated at this moment. In the previous two shots, although Jian Wushuang resisted, the discerning people could see that Jian Wushuang was not easy to resist. Now the third shot is also the strongest shot of the Supreme Master. In order to cast this shot, she has paid a certain price. This shot is enough to completely crush Jian Wushuang, at least it can also make Jian Wushuang subject to a certain amount. Degree of harm. But the results have surprised everyone. This strongest shot was resisted by Jian Wushuang intact. Such a horrible shot couldn't really impact his body, just the earthy strange power that emerged in front of Jian Wushuang completely resisted the power of this shot, even his body. There is no slight retreat in shape. How is this possible? Hitomi could not help but screamed. What is that power anyway? The dominating axe stared at Jian Wushuang. At this moment, the supreme master of Qing dynasty also set off a huge wave in his heart. She stared hard at Jian Wushuang, remembering the scene just now. That power is the treasure? No. Novel. That kind of feeling is not supreme but swordplay? Yes, it's swordplay. The blue sage's eyes narrowed. A ruler, the sword guard of the body, cast a shot at this strongest god, completely blocking it. The supreme master could hardly believe that it was true. But the truth is right here. Your honor, let it go. Jian Wushuang also spoke at this time, with a smile on his face and a deep breath in his heart. 3,000 years of swordstone enlightenment. I spent most of the 3,000 years in perfecting the guardianship of the earth. In the end, I was able to condense the 12 major sword domains at the same time, and I was stronger than one. It turns out that these 3,000 years I wasn't in vain. Jian Wushuang's heart was also extremely excited. Remember the first domain name in this book. Emperor Jiutian. Chapter 3744. Second more. 3,000 years ago when he first arrived in the Red Cloud realm, the trick he created to protect the earth was still immature, but it was worthy of a major sword area. And the earth at that time was extremely pure. But in the past 3,000 years he has studied and studied under that sword stone. The great Emperor Sword realm that can be united to this day is already 12-fold. The most important thing is that the 12 major areas of the sword realm also carry a force. The endless moods are perfectly combined to make these 12 major sword areas more tenacious. After reaching this step, although Jian Wushuang knows that his sword's body protection ability should be extremely good, at least the attack at the higher level of the master level can be completely resisted. As for whether the attack at the top level can be blocked, he not sure. But now he really fights with the top masters, and the supreme master in front of him also took out his strongest strength and cast his strongest shot, but he failed to break all of his 12 major sword areas, which made the sword warriors are almost surprised. Qing Zun's strongest shot could not completely break the 12 major sword areas, which shows that the defense ability of the Earth Guard is much stronger than he imagined. During the 3,000 years of enlightenment he did not waste it. Unlike Jian Wushuang's excitement, the people around him have long been shocked. The Lord of the Blood Sword. The Supreme Master also looked back at Jian Wushuang again, and the emotion on his face also slowly converged and he returned to the old coldness. You are the master of the rules, and the combat power is not weaker than that of the higher master. I did not expect you as even more frightening. Not only has an extremely powerful body, you can directly resist the attack of 30% of this seat without damage, and you also know such terrible body swordsmanship. With this sword body swordsmanship, even if it is the top master, there are only a handful of people who are qualified to kill you. At least some of the top masters in this star domain should have no such ability. The Supreme Master said this with her own feelings, at least she thought so. But when she said this, the void around her immediately caused a violent commotion. Oh my God, the Supreme Lord said that this star field, no one can kill the Lord of the Blood Sword? This is also normal. I haven't seen the Supreme Master cast his strongest shot, but he was blocked by the sword of the Blood Sword intact. Is there such a sword of sword, plus on top of his mighty body, some of the top masters of this star domain? If they don't join hands one-on-one, I am afraid no one can help him. The Lord of the Blood Sword, the ruler of every area, the fighting power is as powerful as the High Master. I did not expect that his life-saving ability is even more incredible. It is a monster. Before we even wanted to kill such a monster to fight for the wings in his hands, it was just daydreaming. The sounds of astonishment sounded one after another. The Supreme Lord spoke again, the Lord of the Blood Sword, although you are only the Lord of the Rules, but with such overbearing strength and life-saving means, it should be that the strongest flying gem is in your hands. You are qualified to occupy that kind of arcane. Having said that, the Supreme Master solemnly looked at Jian Wushuang, and even if he turned, he obviously intended to leave directly. But when she left, she glanced at the dominating axe next to her. Ba axe, your repressor Jibao has been suppressing here. Could it be that you want to keep this seat together? The axe dominated the front. He had previously used the repression class Jibao to suppress this void, just to prevent the swordsman from fleeing, and did not intend to stop the Supreme Master. But now that the Supreme Master is leaving, of course, he is also restricted by his repressive class treasure. The dominating axe glanced at His Holiness Qing, and then looked at Jian Wushuang, sighing at the bottom of his heart. I used to think that the Lord of the Blood Sword was just the Lord of the Rules anyway. Even though his combat strength is not weak, his ability to protect his life should not be strong. As long as a few more masters join forces, he can be sure to kill him. Of course, I did not expect that the Lord of the Blood Sword's body has a strong hair-saving ability, especially the body sword that has just been cast, and even the Supreme Master is helpless. I am a High Master and have no chance at all. The dominating axe shook his head and did not insist any more. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the surrounding empty repression squad. After the repression of the retreat, the Supreme Master left directly. The Supreme Master has already left. Why, you two are still planning to stay and continue to be stupefied by me? Jian Wushuang looked at Doha and Doju with interest. The Dominator Axe glanced at Hitomi. The Lord of the Blood Sword, you are terrific. The Lord of the Axe said aloud, then turned and left. There is a flash of sharpness in the pupil's head. There is a festival between him and Jian Wushuang. If there is a chance, he will naturally take the fight against Jian Wushuang without hesitation, but now in this occasion the Supreme Master and the axe dominated, leaving him alone. Wuxia has only been thoroughly crushed, he naturally did not dare to stay more. Soon the three masters all left one after another. Even the masters left, and those rulers around them didn't have any idea of scrambling, and soon they all left. The battle for the strongest flying treasure has finally come to an end here. In the Red Cloud Realm, above the void of the third continent, the sword Wuxia slowly moved forward. He had two summons of communication in his hand, one of the Lord of the Heavens and the other of the Lord of Time and Space. Tianho Xiaoyu, admire, rule the rule with one enemy, 2, dominate the 2 with the axe and dominate the pupil, and also receive 3 shots of the Supreme Master in front of you lost, and the strongest shot cast by His Holiness paid a certain price. He couldn't break your body sword, which really made me wait for the Lord to be ashamed. Originally, the Master of Space and Time knew that Jian Wushuang had received the lightest flying treasure, and was coming at the fastest speed. But on the way he received news that Jian Wushuang's crisis had been lifted, and for a few reasons he knew the process of the previous war. Even if it is the Lord of Time and Space who has some understanding of Jian Wushuang, he cannot help but marvel. Indeed, the Supreme Lord is a real top master. Her strongest shot didn't even break your body sword. Sword Heaven, when did your body sword become like this? Domineering? The Alliance Master could not help asking. Chapter 37:45. The first is more. It's true, in the past 3,000 years I did not search for the treasure on the third continent, but I have been learning about the sword technique under the Sword Stone. Among the 4 sword techniques of the Sword Stone, there is an extremely deep protection. Body swordsmanship, I have been enlightened for a full 3,000 years, and then I have continued to improve the body swordsmanship that I have created to the point where I am now. Jian Wushuangdo. Is that so? No wonder I've been summoned to you before. You keep saying that you are enlightening. It turned out that you were enlightening on such swordsmanship. The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time are also aware. By the way, Tianho Xiaoyu, the strongest flying class treasure is now in your hands, and you should hurry up and look at it. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded, temporarily interrupted the communication with the two, and then found a quiet place and took out the black wings. The black feathered wings are cold and extremely cold. This wing is also covered with complex and mysterious secret patterns, which are invisible even to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, even though Xian started trying to refine the black wings. At the beginning of refining, there was a resistance immediately. Sure enough. Jian Wushuang frowned, not surprised. Arcana, even if it is a general level, is not easy to refining. If you want to refining it, you must meet the requirements of this treasure. At the strongest level of the universe, the threshold for refining will be higher. Like the Sword Warrior's Huangquan Excalibur, the strongest cosmic treasure, the conditions are extremely harsh, but fortunately, when Sword Warrior obtained Huangquan Excalibur, he had entered the origin of the universe of the sword. At that time he had reached the refinement of Huangquan Excalibur. Requirements: this is relatively easy to refine Huangquan Excalibur. But this black wing, as the strongest flying treasure, has a higher theoretical value than Huangquan Excalibur, and the threshold for refining is naturally higher. However, Jian Wushuang's current strength is far from being comparable. This black feather refining requirement seems to have something to do with the laws of the universe? As Jian Wushuang studied, he soon learned the threshold for refining the black wings, and he just reached it. It didn't take long for him to refine the black wings. As soon as the refining was completed, he immediately got the information of this black wing. Shen Guangtiani, the strongest flying class treasure. Xianguang Shitiani? That's a good name. Jian Wushuang muttered. Like ordinary flying and armored armors, this black light wing also has 3 different powers, and it also contains 2 major secrets. The first is the triple power, which is higher than the first, but the conditions for triggering are also more difficult than the first. The first important power is to be able to induce the existence of the laws of the universe with extreme clarity. The second important power is to realize a trace of the law of the universe. The third important power is that it requires a certain level of understanding of the laws of the universe before it can be triggered. The law of the universe? The conditions under which Shuangguang Di Tianyi evoked turned out to be related to the laws of the universe. The higher the awareness of the laws of the universe, the stronger the power of the priming? Jian Wushuang secretly wondered, but immediately he understood. The strongest cosmic treasure, and also a special treasure like flying, is indeed eligible for the origin of the universe. With the triple power of Shuangguang and Tianyi, Jian Wushuang now meets the requirements for the first power. The first power, as long as he can clearly sense the existence of the law of the universe, and this step, when he first came to him in the law of the universe, he has already reached. And he has now grasped the breadth of the law of the universe. Speaking of which, he now not only meets, but even exceeds the requirement of priming the first power. It's just the second power of Shenguang's Tianyi, and then he really needs to understand a bit of the law of the universe. This is far away for Jian Wushuang. Try this first power first. There was a flash of fierce flicker in the sword's eyes, and the black wings in his hand instantly merged into his body surface, but then spread out behind him. The huge black wings exude a special mysterious wave. With the sword's thoughts, the first power can be triggered instantly. Alas, a fierce show of wings. Call out. I saw a streamer rushing out in an instant, but in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in the void 10,000 miles away. This speed. Jian Wushuang's figure stopped in the void, but his gaze was a little excited. Too fast, this is too fast. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It's too fast. Just in a blink of an eye, he flew 100,000 miles directly. You must know that this is in the Red Cloud realm, where the heavens and the earth are under immense restrictions. It is not as unscrupulous as the divine realm in the early days. Traveling 100,000 miles in the blink of an eye, this terrifying speed, even if it is the top master, is so. My speed was also relatively fast before, and it would never be inferior to the ordinary master, but compared with the speed at which I now ignite Shuangguang Wuxianyi, it is almost a witch. It's too fast. Even if it's the top master, it's probably not as fast as I am. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He doesn't know how fast the top lord bursts out with all his strength, but he can also make a basic judgment. Besides, let us say that the previous pupil, when facing himself, could not perform the life-saving technique when facing himself escape. That speed is scary. However, the speed at which the pupil Zhu was performing the life-saving mystery at that time was definitely not as fast as his current self, and definitely much slower than himself. Thus, he can probably infer. He knew before that, with the strongest flying treasure, his speed could definitely be greatly increased. But he did not expect that this increase in speed would be so much as it all at once, even faster than the speed of ordinary top masters. Moreover, this is only the first power of Shenguang Yu Tianyi. If there is a chance in the future, he will realize a trace of the law of the universe and evoke the second power of Shuangguang Yu Tianyi. Not faster? Second level power. There was a glimmer of expectation in Jian Wu's eyes. The threshold for Zhuangguang's Tianyi's second prestige to trigger is to realize a trace of the law of the universe. This cosmic law, under normal circumstances only the supreme superpowers are qualified to enlighten, but this is only under normal circumstances. Jian Wushuang knows that many things in this world and this huge universe cannot be inferred by common sense, such as those evils that cannot be inferred by common sense. Those terrible talents can understand a trace of the universe at the level of the master, or even more, it is not impossible to master a trace of the universe at the level of the master of the rules. Chapter 3746. Second more. Although Jian Wushuang will not be blindly confident that he can compare with the unbelievable evil in the universe, it is always a hope. This is just the basic power of Shuangguang Yantianyi. This Shuangguang Yantianyi also contains 2 secret techniques. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. Shenguang Si Tianyi comes with 2 major mysteries, namely Shuangguang Phantom and Shuangguang Realm. Shuangguang Phantom is a mysterious spell performed by Shuangguang Yantianyi. As for the Shuangguang Realm, just like its name, it is naturally a heavy field of Zhuangguang's celestial wings. Both of these 2 mysteries are performed together with Shuangguang Yantianyi, and their power is naturally extraordinary. However, Jian Wushuang of these two secret techniques also need to be enlightened before they can be exhibited. One body method, one domain method, hoping to surprise me. With a smile on his face, Jian Wushuang sat down and began to enlighten these two secret techniques. A flash, 10 years have passed. Red clouds rolling in the vast void. The ghostly streamer illusions flickered in the void. Each flash, when it reappeared, was already in the void hundreds of feet away, and there was almost no interval between the flashes. Countless phantoms flickered. At half a moment, all these phantoms dissipated, and in the most central void, the figure of Jian Wushuang gradually formed. Unbelievable, the mystery of the body in this Shuangguang Piantianyi is incredible. It's better to describe it as a body rather than a body. The sword's eyes twinkled with a strong light. During the 10 years of enlightenment, he has mastered the two mysteries of Shuangguang Phantom and Shuangguang Realm respectively. And just now he was performing the Black Light Phantom, which seems to be the body magic, but in fact, every flash of this Black Light Phantom is directly moved from one void to another. It is like the spacetime movement in the spacetime magic created by the Lord of Spacetime. The difference is that time and space shift is a life-saving mystery, which can be transmitted from a distance based on the space coordinates left. Although this mysterious life-saving ability is strong, it is only useful to ordinary rulers. After all, this mystery will be limited by time and space. Once someone can cast time and space imprisonment, then this time and space movement cannot be cast at all. And the current strength of Jian Wushuang can threaten him and be eligible to let him escape. At least he is the master. Even if he is not good at the rules of time and space, he certainly has treasures in space and time. Can easily cast time and space. So this time and space shift has no use for the current sword Wushuang. However, the near-body movements performed in this mystic light phantom are not affected by the restraint of time and space. Even if it is only a short-range movement of time and space, each movement can only be hundreds of feet, up to a few tens of miles, but this mystic light phantom can be used continuously. Imagine that if Jian Wushuang was in a close fight with a master, he would perform this secret technique, move directly near the master, change the position, and that master could basically not capture his specifics. Location. The fight between the two men, from the beginning, he was able to stand invincible by this method. This mystery is worthy of being performed in conjunction with the strongest flying class treasure, Shen Guangyu Tianyi, but it works. Jian Wu's eyes were full of surprise. As for the mysterious realm, the sword Wushuang's expression moved, and the secret lines on the body of Zhuangguang's wing Tianyi wing lit up instantly, and the time rushed. A lot of dark streamers burst out from the wing. These dark streams are sweeping out. In the blink of an eye, it covered the range of tens of thousands of miles around, so that the range of tens of thousands of miles was completely trapped in the dark streamer field. Shuangguang Realm, although it is a mystery, its movement and appearance are just like the normal realm-like shock. As for the power, realm oppression, Jian Wushuang whispered, and instantly, in the huge streamer field, there was a terrible oppression. This oppression, oppressed above the void, the space began to tremble madly. The oppressive effect in this field is very strong. Jian Wushuang is at the center of the field. Mastering this field, he can naturally clearly sense the oppressive power in this field. He felt for the first time that the oppressive effect of this mysterious realm seemed not to be inferior to the general domain top peak treasure, or even stronger than the general domain top peak treasure. Just like his own magic sand realm, it is the top class realm of treasure, but it is a bit inferior to the mysterious realm at this moment. However, we must know that the Shuangguang realm is only a mysterious technique performed by Shuangguang Yantianyi, and it is not a domain treasure. This mystery can be perfectly combined with the realm of the realm. Magic sand realm out. The sword Wushuang's thoughts moved, and the black quicksand of time was also directly impacted. It also permeated the range of tens of thousands of miles and did not conflict with the black streamer of the sky, but the two perfectly combined. Shuangguang realm and Masha realm are a perfect combination. Time. Boom boom. The terrifying realm of power broke out, and the black frosting surrounding the streamer slammed wildly. At this instant, the realm of oppression was much stronger than before, whether it was the magic sand realm or the mysterious realm. This power. Jian Wu's eyes had ecstasy that could not be concealed. He hadn't expected that the mystery contained in this Shuangguang Piantianyi would be so arrogant. The streamer phantom just surprised him. And this mysterious realm even surprised him. This is the domain secret technique combining its own magic sand field. It has formed a more terrifying field, which is far stronger than the peak field. The realm of the field is extremely powerful in the battle of the strong. The strength of the domain class treasure can completely allow a practitioner to take the initiative in the fierce battle with his opponent. Like before, when Jian Wushuang and the axe dominated the battle for Shuangguang Shen Qianni at the same time, he immediately cast the magic sand field to limit the speed of the axe dominated. Unfortunately, the axe dominated also had the top-level domain class treasure, two major areas. Impact on each other, no one can limit to whom. However, if he had a stronger field class treasure at that time, then he could suppress the field dominated by the axe, so that his speed and strength were greatly reduced, and he could more easily get the Shuangguang Yodianyi. Keep everyone waiting, sorry? Chapter 3747. The first is more. With this Shuangguang Xingxianyi, the perfect combination of the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand realm, unless in the future I meet the strongest who has the strongest domain class treasure, otherwise I will be able to occupy either absolute initiative. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. The combination of the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand realm is enough to suppress the top realm class treasure. However, compared with the strongest field class arcana, the power should still be worse. But how many people in this star domain have the strongest domain class treasure? After getting Zhuangguang's Qianni, he not only increased his life-saving ability, but also contained two major secrets, which also greatly improved Jian Wushuang's own strength. Next, Jian Wushuang's goal should be a strongest body armor. In the Red Cloud realm, the birth and contention of Shen Guangxi Tianni caused a great sensation. This sensation is not only the strongest flying treasure, but also the strength of the sword unparalleled. It was thought that Jian Wushuang could completely suppress Hitomi in the frontal fight, so Hitomi could only run away. This is powerful enough, but he did not expect his true strength to be even stronger. He even dominated Hitomi and Hitomi together, the Lord can suppress it. Especially his body protection ability. Leaving aside the arrogant body, it is simply shocking that the swordsmanship that can block the strongest shot of His Holiness. However, the Red Cloud realm is, after all, a battleground for supreme treasure. Shen Guang's battle for Qianni was just one of them. As more and more jewels were born, one after another jewel battles began, and the enthusiasm for this matter gradually subsided. Many powerful players in the Red Cloud realm continued to engage in the competition for treasure. Jian Wushuang also continued to wander on the third continent. In a flash, 2,000 years have passed. In the past 2,000 years, the number of treasures born in the Red Cloud world has gradually decreased, but the quality of the layers has gradually increased. Jian Wushuang also received several arcanas during the period, but they were only top-level arcanas. Tianhou Xiaoyu just got the news. On the first continent, another strongest treasure was born. It is a magic sword in attack. The power seems to be very good. Is the Excalibur? Sword Wushuang looked but shook his head afterwards. The strongest soldier in attack, I already have the Huangquan Excalibur, which is enough for my sword skills to perform. Even if I get another one, it is not much. Usefulness. The Lord of Time and Space also nodded. The birth of the Excalibur gave rise to a lot of contention, and it was finally obtained by a good luck higher master. With this Excalibur, this Red Cloud world, the strongest treasure that has been born is already 6. Under normal circumstances, the most powerful arcana that was born each time the Red Cloud realm was turned on, most of them were about 10, and now 6 have been born, and the rest are bound to be few, and these 6 were the strongest arcanas. 4 are the attacking magic soldiers, 1 is the strongest flying treasure you get, and 1 is the strongest treasure, which is dominated by Tianpeng. The sword did not sink in two-sided color. More than 1,000 years ago, on the second continent, one of the strongest arcana warframes was born. The movement caused by the birth of the strongest arcana warframe was huge, and it also caused a frantic scramble on the second continent. However, the second continent and the third continent where Jian Wushuang are located, after all, are far apart. Although Jian Wushuang got the news, he has waited for him to pass by. Tianpeng, the 2 mainland continents, dominated the hands. Tianpeng dominates, but it is one of the leaders of Beihai Palace. Jian Wushuang had dealt with Tianpeng and also played against him. His strength is probably still above the Supreme Master. The strongest treasure battle gear fell into the hands of this top master, who in this star domain is still eligible to fight again. Jian Wushuang only secretly regrets. On that day the Peng Master was the top master and he was also the master of the Beihai Palace. He originally had one of the strongest treasures in his hand. Now he has another one. He is not very useful. He holds the strongest treasure. At most, the battle armor can only be placed in Beihai Palace and used by other masters of Beihai Palace, or it can simply put the strongest treasure in the Jiodi Pavilion and exchange other treasures. If it is another top master, we may also try to get in touch and see if we can exchange the most powerful treasure to the best armor, but we can only get the strongest treasure. Treasure is Tianpeng. With the last thing, it is almost impossible for us to want to negotiate again. The master of space and time laughed bitterly. Jian Wushuang shrugged helplessly. His Huangquan Excalibur was obtained from the master of Tianpeng. At that time the method he used was not so glorious. It can be said that Tianpeng had mastered one and let Tianpeng dominate a free loss. Although Tianpeng dominates Gu Yan's face and is willing to gamble to lose, he is afraid that he will not be too comfortable. At this time he also wanted to exchange the strongest treasure of the treasure from Tianpeng's master, which was obviously impossible. Unless he trades Shuangguang Yetianyi for exchange, the value of Shuangguang Yetianyi is still the strongest treasure of the treasure, and his use for sword Wushuang is not small. How would Jian Wushuang be willing? Every time the Red Cloud Realm is opened, there are many strongest treasures born, but the strongest is the most precious warframe. At most there will be only one. If you miss that one, I am afraid that it will not be until the next time Red Cloud Realm opens there are other strongest treasures born. Jian Wushuang sighed. The Red Cloud Realm has been turned on many times in this star field. Everyone knows some potential laws in this period. Like when the Red Cloud Realm is opened, about 10 of the strongest treasures are born. At the same time the 10 strongest treasures of the 10 or so are mostly attacking magic soldiers. As for the treasure armor, flight, suppression, domain, and soul, the strongest treasure is the most powerful. Less born only by chance. And every time the Red Cloud Realm is opened, the strongest treasures such as Arcana Warframe, Flight, Repression, Realm, Soul, and more than one of the same type are born. Shuangguang Yantianyi, which was obtained by Jian Wushuang, has been born by him, then in the following time, this Red Cloud world will never be born like the most powerful flying treasure. The same is true of the Arcana Battle Gear. Originally, we still wanted to take this opportunity of the birth of the Red Cloud Realm to find a way to get you the strongest armor of the precious treasure, but now it seems that there is no chance, but you also get one. The strongest flying class treasure is even higher in value, said the master of space and time. Time, space and sky. In fact, I have an idea in my heart. Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Chapter 3748. Second more. What's the idea? Confederate Lord asked. I was thinking that there are many strong players in the Red Cloud Realm. If we really want to get one of the strongest Arcana Warframes, we may not be pinned on this Red Cloud Realm to take the initiative to be born. Maybe we can think of other ways, such as going to hunt a master with the strongest treasure. Sword Wushuangdo. Hunting the Lord? The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space were both shocked, but both groaned as they followed. It is not that they have never thought about hunting the masters with the strongest treasure, but they are just thinking about it. You have to know that the power of the dominant level is extremely powerful, and most of them have a strong means of life-saving. Even if it is the simplest primary master, it is extremely difficult to hunt. Like Jian Wushuang, Shen Shinto, and the Lord of Time and Space, the three of them have killed the Earth Saint Star to threaten to persecute the Earth Saint Star. The Lord of the Stars did indeed feel the great threat at that time, and then bowed his head. However, this is also mainly because Jian Wushuang did not really kill them, and did not really push the Earth Lord, or the Earth Lord revealed the strongest whole card, and it may not be impossible to fight. Moreover, Jian Wushuang, they were directly killing the old nest of the Divine Star Lord. The Divine Star Lord was too self-confident at the beginning, and he did not know the true strength of Jian Wushuang. They fled without the first time, which gave them a chance. But if it's an ordinary master in a place like Hangyangji, there is a hint of vigilance in their hearts. As long as they sense that other masters in the surrounding area are approaching, they will be alert for the first time, and if 2 or 3 masters approach at the same time, that master will definitely not hesitate to retreat, and will not give you the chance to kill him. It's too difficult to hunt the Lord. The Lord of Time and Space shook his head slightly. Only hunting ordinary primary masters, you have to find a great opportunity, not to mention that we are going to hunt or kill the master with the strongest treasure, which has the strongest treasure. Masters, even primary masters, are extremely powerful in body protection. Even if the top masters are all at their best, it is almost impossible to kill them. Yes, the master with the strongest treasure is really hard to kill. Even if the top master takes the shot himself, I am afraid that he will not have a lot of confidence to kill a master with the strongest treasure. Wrote. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He naturally knows that it is difficult to kill the master with the strongest treasure, but he also has a certain confidence in his current strength. 2 people I have played against the pupil with the strongest treasure battle gear, and I tried my best to hurt him. At that time I wanted to kill him. It was really difficult, but now it may not be a trace maybe. Jianwu Shuangdo. Oh. The Lord of the Cut Heaven Alliance and the Lord of Space and Time both looked the same. Jian Tianho, how confident are you? Asked the leader of the Celestial Alliance. About 40%. If you two can come and help me together, then you have 60% certainty. Jianwu Shuangdo. 60%? The eyes of the Lord of the Celestial Alliance and the Lord of Time and Space were all on. It's too difficult for them to kill a master who has the strongest armor of the treasure warrior. Originally, even if the sword was unparalleled they could try it, but now they have enough. 60%. Lu Qing is sure you can try it, but I don't know who we want to use as a hunting target. Is it the pupil? Yes, just him. Jian Wushuang had a goal long ago. In this star field, there are not many masters with the strongest treasures, and most of them are top masters or powerful masters. Master of that level, Jian Wushuang certainly has no idea of hunting. And the elementary master who has the strongest treasure warframe, Jian Wushuang knows, there is only one pupil. Moreover, this pupil is originally a lonely and widowed person, and his behavior is not very good. He usually disregards his identity and shoots at the masters of some rules at will. After these long years he killed the rules in the 3 battlefields. The Lord does not know how many there are, and there are many offensive forces. It's just that the pupil himself is strong, and he has the strongest armor of armor, and few people can do nothing about him. If such a master, Jian Wushuang, would go to hunt and kill, even if the matter was revealed, it would not offend anyone. On the contrary, many people would have expected him to kill the pupil. This pupil is indeed the best target for hunting. We shot. No matter if he was killed or not, no one would say much afterwards, but the pupil himself is not weak. It is extremely strong, and it seems that life-saving means are not weak. Master of Space and Time groaned. I've taught him his strength, so don't worry about it. The key is his life-saving method. Last time I played against him, although it forced him to perform a life-saving method, but that may not be all his cards, so we have to. If you hunt, you still have to be fully prepared. Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. Yes, to kill a master, first of all you have to give him no chance to escape. Time and space, with your accomplishments in time and space, can you do that? Asked the leader of the Cut Sky Alliance. At best, I can guarantee that he cannot escape by any means of time and space or treasures, and completely imprison that space and time. The main hall of time and space. This alone is not enough. Even if time and space are banned, his life-saving means can be used to instantaneously erupt far faster than ordinary masters. Zhou Tianmeng said. Don't worry about this, I have Shuangguang Yi Tianyi in hand, and he is not expected to be as fast as me. Jian Wushuang said. A joke. Shuangguang Sun Tianyi is here, and he bursts out faster than the top masters in an instant. He doesn't believe that the pupil can pass him faster. But even so, we still have to be prepared for anything, such as arranging some special matrices in advance, or using the repression class treasure, to suppress the void so that he cannot escape at all. In the case of repressing the class treasure, Shen has a pinnacle of repression class in his hands, and the grade is very high. Would you like him to send it in? No. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. The two must have forgotten that I had one of the strongest suppressive class treasures in the world in the beginning, and that strongest suppressive class treasure was still in my hands. Do you mean Shen Hesh? The Lord of the Cut Heaven Alliance and the Lord of the Space and Time Palace are both stunned. Chapter 3749. Only one more today. Picture of Shen Hesh, which is the strongest suppressive class treasure left by Xuani, and has been in the sword without hands. But because of the high level of the Shanhe Society's map, Jian Wushuang has not been able to exert its strongest power, but this Shanhe Society's map has always been one of the strongest cards of Jian Wushuang. Until the last moment, it will not easily cast. Now, as long as he can kill that pupil, Jian Wushuang does not mind using this whole card. The map of the Shanhe Society is indeed the strongest suppressive type of treasure, but the threshold for the display of this treasure is extremely high. Jian Tianho, you can now show all the power of the Shanhe Society? Of course all power can't be achieved, but as long as some power is exerted, it will be enough to suppress primary masters like Hitomi, making him unable to escape. Jian Wushuangdo. It's enough to be able to do this. The leader of Zhiqian League nodded. Since that's the case, it shouldn't be too late. I and the Space and Time immediately rushed towards the third continent. In addition, I was told to go to the Star Palace in the third continent, and the strongest of my 3 major free leagues, figure out where the pupil is. As soon as the 3 of us arrive, they start immediately. Row. Jian Wushuang and the Lord of Time and Space both nodded. Immediately after the interruption of the communication, The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space immediately hurried over to the third continent. Although the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space are on different continents, it took only less than a day to reach the third continent at the speed of the dominant class powerhouse. Already gathered. At the same time, the orders of the three of them have been conveyed. The Star Palace and the three powerful freedom alliances in the third continent have begun to pay attention to the position of the pupil. Mr. Hitomi, after all, is a real master, and he has the strongest armor of the treasure armor. He almost walks sideways on this third continent. There is naturally no worries about acting. It is still very easy to find his place. 10 days later. The third continent in the Red Void. A sword was born out of thin air. This sword is a top-level treasure with extraordinary value. Naturally, it attracted many strong players to fight for it. In this battle, the blood ancestors of Tianzu Dojo from one of the three major free alliances, with great luck, took this sword directly into their hands. Although there are many rulers around, the number is not large and the strength is not too overbearing. Seeing that the sword has fallen into the hands of the blood race, they can only give up and not rob, but the blood race is holding it. When the sword is about to leave this void, a terrible breath came suddenly. Come, it is Hitomi. You call out the sword that you just had, and this seat will spare you. The pupil master stood in the void, overlooking the blood ancestor, and the atmosphere of the dominating level directly pressed on the blood ancestor, making the blood ancestor's body shape uncontrollable shocked. The blood ancestor's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Master Tong, an ordinary top-level treasure, isn't it that you, the dignified master, should lower your status yourself? The blood ancestor said lowly. Less nonsense, hand it over or you will die. Hitachi stared coldly. Although the blood ancestors were unwilling, but because of the strength of the pupil in front of him, he did not dare to disobey, so he had to take the sword out and give it to him. Count on you. Mr. Hitomi sneered, turned his sword into the ring and turned away. But he didn't notice that after he left, Zuiza's grim and resentful look. The Lord of Time and Space, I have met the pupil of Tong and my position is? The blood ancestor has sent a message to the Lord of Time and Space. Above the void, Hitomi moved slowly forward, with a touch of pride in the corner of his mouth. The ant just wasn't too stupid. If he didn't hand it in or just hit the seat a little bit in the opening, this seat would have a reason to kill him directly. Hitomi sneered, despite his it's just an ordinary ruler of the early divine realm, but if you can kill, you can also relieve this seat a little. Mr. Hitomi just wanted to kill the blood ancestor. It wasn't because there was something in the blood ancestors that attracted him, nor was it for a top-level treasure sword. The real reason is that the blood ancestors came from the early world of the gods and came from the three major free alliances. Mr. Hitomi has also received news before that he knows that Jianghu is not only a person of the Star Palace, but also has an extraordinary relationship with the three freedom alliances of the Taichu divine realm. Of course there are complaints in my heart. The beheading of a ruler from the three major free alliances, although the pupil can't be completely relieved, but at least he can be slightly more comfortable. But unfortunately, the blood ancestor just surrendered the treasure too fast, and did not give him the opportunity and excuse to shoot. He is a master, and it is enough to force a ruler to surrender the treasure. If the opponent has already surrendered the treasure and he still kills the other, then it is too much, so it will arouse a lot of resentment from many of this star domain. So he just didn't do it directly. Well, don't worry, there are so many strong people in the Star Palace and the three free alliances in this Red Cloud world. In the future, there will be opportunities to meet the strong people in the Star Palace and the three free alliances, and then look for opportunities. Just kill a few more. Hitomi sneered. He has been in this star for so long, he has always wanted to do whatever he wants. With his strength, coupled with his life-saving whole cards, he almost ate no food in this star field. But before that fierce battle with Yu Jianshuang, he not only ate but also lost a big face. The dignified dominion would be run away by the Wolverines killed by a ruler, which made him a joke for a while, and of course he wanted to revenge Jian Wushuang. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang's strength is extremely strong, he can't retaliate against Jian Wushuang. Lord of the Blood Sword, this place can't retaliate against you, but it can retaliate against those under your control. How can you help me? Tong Zhu laughed heartily. But at this moment, within the scope of the pupil's perception of the soul power, a familiar breath suddenly appeared. The appearance of this breath made Hitomi look instantly. This breath is the Lord of the Blood Sword? The pupil's face immediately became dignified. The Lord of the Blood Sword came to the void near this seat, just passing by? Hitomi did not doubt at first. After all, Jian Wushuang has been rushing on the third continent. Although the third continent is quite large, after all, it is normal to encounter each other halfway. Chapter 3750. The first is more. Upon discovering that Jian Wushuang appeared within the scope of his soul perception, Hitomi's expression immediately became dignified. At the same time, the special treasure that has been hidden in him has once again revealed an unprecedented desire. Sure enough, as long as the Lord of the Blood Sword appears, the baby in this seat will be extremely agitated. It seems that the Lord of the Blood Sword does indeed have something that the treasure is desperate for, unfortunately. Shin, however, began to appease the treasure. Baby, don't worry, I will definitely find a way to get the thing in the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword in the future, but now, let's go subtle first. Hitomi shook his head and had no intention of meeting Jinshuang at all. After all, Jian Wushuang's strength is far stronger than him, and the two sides have already settled their grievances. At the beginning he was fleeing by the sword Wushuang's. Now that I am alone, naturally I dare not face the sword with Wushuang, so I can only choose to retreat. It is ridiculous to say that a dignified master wants to avoid a ruler proactively. The Lord of the Blood Sword, let you be proud for a while, this seat will definitely get back in the future. Mr. Hitomi held his hands tightly, and his heart was resentful. He has deliberately bypassed the sword unparalleled. But soon he realized that although he had taken the initiative to bypass, the Lord of the Blood Sword also changed direction at the same time, and hurried directly towards his position. The Lord of the Blood Sword can have the strength of a higher master, and his soul perception ability is certainly not weak. This seat can sense his presence, and he should also be able to sense me. Now this seat is actively bypassing he instead of leaning directly towards this seat? Hitomi's face was a bit ugly. He was a master, and he had taken the initiative to avoid a ruler, but he didn't want the ruler, but he persisted and rushed towards him. Although the heart was extremely angry, but the pupil did not mean to have a double-sided pair with the sword. He continued to change direction and accelerated his speed. However, when he changed direction, Jian Wushuang also changed immediately. After he accelerated his speed, Jian Wushuang also accelerated. It is clear that he is completely following him. Lord of the Blood Sword, what are you going to do? When Hitomi was furious, he directly consciously shouted. Master Tong, I'm sorry that you and I have met two people before. They are considered acquaintances. Now I have encountered them for the third time on this third continent. Closer to humanity. Jian Wushuang smiled. This seat is not human? Tong's mouth twitched slightly. This seat has nothing to do with you, nor can I greet you. This seat is leaving now. Don't follow me. What's the hurry? How good is it to sit down and talk? Jian Wushuang smiled, and at the same time his body speed accelerated again. His speeding up immediately caused the pupil to be vigilant, and his speed began to erupt immediately. This pupil is really vigilant. Jian Wushuang shook his head secretly, but then he was relieved. Yes, this is after all in the Red Cloud realm, the fight for the killing is too crazy, and he knows my strength well, even though I never thought I could kill him, but knew that I could easily beat him and dare not meet with me. It's normal, after all he was beaten up by me the last time. After the same encounter he didn't want to meet the second time. Jian Wushuang smiled from the bottom of his heart, but suddenly his expression moved and he said, Master Tong, don't leave in a hurry, you won't hide it. I came here deliberately to ask about it. What's the matter? Although Hitomi replied, he did not stop at all. That's it. I heard that you had a chance to get a special treasure by chance, and that treasure was not of little use to me, so I wanted to talk to you. Jian Wushuang do. Special treasure? When the pupil heard this, his vigilance skyrocketed. He does have an extremely special treasure on his body, and that is his biggest secret. There is absolutely no second person in this world who knows it. The reason why he has arrogantly dealt with some rules in this territory regardless of his identity over the years is largely because of that special treasure. Now when I hear Jian Wushuang talking about special treasures, the pupil thinks of it for the first time, which is the treasure in his own hands. But the question is, how did the Lord of the Blood Sword know that he had that treasure? Or is it not the special treasure that the Lord of the Blood Sword said? Master of the Blood Sword, I don't know what the special treasure you are talking about. Hitomi directly. Do you not know, Master Tong? Impossible, but I know very well that the treasure is indeed in your hands. Jian Wushuang pretended to have a confident look and then said, Hitomi, in my opinion you just stop for a while, let me find a place to talk about it. The pupil's main gaze sinks slightly. He didn't dare to face Jian Wushuang face to face, but what Jian Wushuang had just said made him hesitant. He is not sure if the special treasure mentioned by Jian Wushuang is his treasure, if it is true. The existence of the treasure is known by the owner of the Blood Sword. Once spread, it will definitely be a big trouble for him. So he also figured out what the special treasure called by Jian Wushuang was. Okay, I promise to talk to you. As for the place, you don't have to choose. It's here. I won't go. You shouldn't come any closer. You and I are separated by such a distant void. Communication of consciousness is just fine. Tong, the main positive road. Is conscious communication? Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, yes. Speaking, Jian Wushuang stopped. The pupil's figure was also paused in the void. The two were separated by almost 70,000 miles of void just so far apart. Seeing that the pupil's body really stopped, Jian Wushuang's face didn't move, but he smiled secretly. Naturally, he did not know what special treasures the pupil had received. The reason why he said this was to stop the pupil first, so that the master of time and space hidden in the surrounding void could be conveniently arranged. And Jian Wushuang is very clear. The primary master, who is as good as the pupil and has the strongest treasure of the treasure, must have got some special opportunities or good fortunes, and most of his hands have also got some special treasures. This is very normal. Not to mention a master, most rule masters have got some special treasures. Jian Wushuang only said that they are special treasures, and didn't say which one was clear. On the contrary, the pupil master would be more cautious, and dare not despise his words. Sure enough, Hitomi was fooled. His body has stopped. Although there is still a distance of 70,000 miles across him, this distance is nothing to Jian Wushuang. Chapter 3751. Second more. The Lord of Time and Space, the pupil of the pupil has stopped, and in the void where I am, you can arrange it. Jian Wushuang secretly whispered. Well, give me 10 breaths, the Lord of Time and Space replied. Okay, I try to help you fight. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. Master of the Blood Sword, what are you going to say to this seat, right? Master Hitomi stood in the void, looking indifferent. He did not see anything unusual in Jian Wushuang, but at the bottom of his heart, although he was full of vigilance against Jian Wushuang, he was not afraid. After all, he is the master of the strongest armor of the treasure, let alone a master of the blood sword. Even if facing a top master, he may not be afraid. He had never worried that Jian Wushuang would threaten his life, and he was just wary that Jian Wushuang would find a chance to beat him hard. Master Tong, the Red Cloud Realm has been open for 5,000 years now. For the past 5,000 years, you have been wandering on this third continent from the beginning, searching for the treasure. Until now, the treasure you got should be a lot, right? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Fortunately, this seat has some gains, but you can't compare with the Lord of the Blood Sword. After all, you have got one of the strongest flying treasures. Tong said. Ha, luck. Jian Wushuang smiled. Mr. Hitomi stared and drank. Master of the Blood Sword, didn't you just say that you want the special treasure in this seat? The number of special treasures obtained by this seat has been countless years, but I don't know what you said. Which one? No hurry, before you mention that special treasure, there is one more thing that needs to be resolved between you and me. Jian Wushuang. What is it? Hitomi stared through the void and looked at Jian Wushuang across a distance of 70,000 miles. Nature is the grudge between you and me. Jian Wushuang's voice sank. Master Tong, as far as I know, my star palace, including the 3 major free alliances in the early divine realm, have no grudges with you from the beginning. Even if before you and I fought, it was only because you shot against your ancestral lord of the sages of my star palace. Yes, I did hurt you during that battle and you lost a lot of face, but that was also your provocation, not to mention how you are. This star field is well known and loses some face, it's nothing to you at all. But in the thousands of years of that battle, you have shot me 5 times and 5 times in the Red Cloud Realm, against the rulers of the Star Palace and the 3 major free alliances. This is obviously a person who deliberately targeted me. You should not deny it. Jian Wushuang stared directly at the pupil. I thought you were here for the purpose of finding it. Dare to ask for your sins. Master Tong smiled. The Lord of the Blood Sword, I admit that you are extremely talented, and no one has the talent of this star field. On you, you are far better than me when it comes to strength, but unfortunately, although your strength is stronger than this one, you cannot kill me at all. And you also know that this seat is offensive to me, so this seat will not end. This seat is still merciful in these years, although the persecution of the Star Palace and the rulers of the 3 major free alliances, but as long as they are willing to hand over Arcana, haven't I killed them? Speaking of which, this seat already gives you face. Looks like I have to thank you? Jian Wu's eyes turned cold. Thank you for your help, Lord of the Blood Sword. If you come to your door today for the purpose, then this seat will tell you now that you want this seat to stop and return to you in the next time. There are 3 main rules of the Freedom League. It's easy to Give up 3 peaks to the Polaris and pay the penalty to this seat, and this seat will stop. Hitomi sneered. 3 pieces of top treasure? Jian Wushuang sneered. When he encountered and battled with Hitomi before, he forced the Hitomi to surrender 3 pieces of the highest arcana to reparation, but the Hitomi refused. Now this pupil in turn forced himself to surrender 3 pieces of peak treasure. Really, I don't know if I live or die. Although sneered at the bottom of his heart, Jian Wushuang frowned on the face and said lowly, Master Tong, you may be too much. Do you really want to fight with me and you will die? Are you dead or alive? Haha, Lord of the Blood Sword, you are the Lord of the Star Palace, and you have a close relationship with the 3 major freedom alliances of Taichu Divine Realm. So many people under your protection will need your protection. There is only one widowed person who is so-called barefoot who is not afraid of wearing shoes, and you can't kill this seat. What qualifications are there to fight with this seat for you to die? Hitomi laughed wildly. Very good, since there is nothing to talk about, Jian Wushuang said. The reason why he did not continue to talk to the pupil, that is because in his conversation, 10 minutes have passed. The Lord of Time and Space has summoned him, saying that everything has been arranged. Ha, I didn't want to talk to you. Master Tong's voice was also cold. The Lord of the Blood Sword, you just said that you know there is a very special treasure in this seat. You want to come to discuss with this seat. It seems that this is just a lie to this seat. In this case, this seat has no time to talk to you and leave. After speaking, Hitomi turned around and planned to leave directly. Want to leave? Did you leave? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. Behind him, a pair of huge black wings spread out suddenly. Wow! The first power of Shen Guangxi Tianyi was triggered instantly, and Jian Wushuang's figure was transformed into a black thunder directly across the void. That's the strongest flying treasure? The moment the pupil saw the black wings spread out, his complexion had changed. Then he saw the black thunder of Jian Wushuang. So fast. It's too fast. A touch of shock appeared on Hitomi's main face. The speed at which the sword Wushuang burst out at the moment was indeed too fast, and it was astonishingly fast. You have to know he is also a very powerful elementary master, and the speed is not weak. In addition, he also has life-saving mystery. The life-saving mystery is exhibited, and the speed can even match in a short time. Top dominate. But now the pupil found that Jian Wushuang burst out at a faster speed than the top masters. Even if he exhibited his life-saving mystery, the speed of bursting out instantly was no better than the sword unparalleled. This also made him abandon the plan to use life-saving mystery to escape immediately. Wow! Relying on Shen Guang's Tianyi, Jian Wushuang crossed a distance of 70,000 miles in an instant, and his figure appeared in front of the pupil. Chapter 3752? Third more. Seeing Jian Wushuang who appeared in front of himself from 70,000 miles away in an instant, especially the huge black wings behind Jian Wushuang, the heart of the pupil was very unpleasant. With the speed of the strongest flying class arcana, it is really terrifying. The Lord of the Blood Sword, I don't know where the luck came from, even got such a treasure. Hitomi is holding his hands tightly. The strongest flying treasure, this level of treasure, even the top masters will be extremely jealous, and the primary master like him, there is absolutely nothing to be amazed, but this is the strongest flying treasure actually turned out to be the blood sword the Lord of such a rule, was obtained. The pupil is certainly jealous and he is very jealous. But unfortunately, jealousy belongs to jealousy, and he also knows that he cannot compete for the strongest flying treasure from the swordless hands. Not to mention him, even the top masters can't do it. Tutor, everything hasn't been resolved. You are so anxious, where are you going? The black wings behind Jian Wushuang exude heartwarming black light. His face was sober and he stared at the pupil near him. The pupil of his eyes narrowed down. Although the Lord of the Blood Sword was stronger than me before, I can easily escape once I perform the life-saving technique, but now the Lord of the Blood Sword has got the strongest flying treasure. It's faster than the average top master. I want to leave mystery, it's impossible. However, although I am not his opponent but he wants to kill me, that is not possible. The pupil is very confident in his life-saving means. But just then... Hitomi suddenly looked, and he had noticed an unusual wave in the space and time around him. This is imprisonment in time and space? No, it's not just that simple. Hitomi's complexion finally changed. Time and space imprisonment, including many unique methods of time and space, are usually performed in order to imitate the escape of others. But nowadays the surrounding space and time are quietly arranged by such means that the other party's goal. The Lord of the Blood Sword, you are confining the space and time around you, What on earth are you going to do? Hitomi said coldly. Oh, did you finally realize it? But it's over. Jian Wushuang smiled, but followed by a wave, a golden light flashed out of the moment and merged into the void above. Banging. The earth trembled, and then an ancient and extreme breath slowly descended. The sky with the red clouds tumbling above suddenly split open, followed by a brand new world, and slowly appeared in front of the world. This world is beautiful, just like a fairyland in the painting. In fact, this world is a scroll world. Pictures of Shanhesh. Kowloon, the sky law formation open. Boom. Heaven and earth shuddered violently. Among the scroll world above, there are 9 giant continents in the scroll world, but at this moment, dazzling golden light burst out. Full of 9 dragon spirit golden lights, burst out from the middle of Kyushu, and shot at 9 different positions in the void below. In a blink of an eye, a huge golden dragon spirit array was already formed. The map of Shanhesh, the strongest suppressive class treasure. The Kowloon Sky Team is the strongest killing move in the Shanhe Society map. This killing move can suppress the world, suppress the strong enemy, and suppress everything. Now, under the guidance of Jian Wushuang, the Jiudao dragon spirit derived from the Jiudao Longtian formation is suppressing the void where Jian Wushuang is located. The perimeter of this void is in the range of hundreds of thousands of miles, all within the suppression of the French front. Just like the pinnacle suppression that the Axe Master took before, suppressing the surrounding void so that Jian Wushuang can't leave directly. After the Jiolong Tianfa array suppresses the surrounding void, the pupil can't naturally leave in a short time. This piece of void. Unless he can forcibly break through the Jiolong Tianfa formation, or if he possesses special treasures of time and space, he can freely travel through time and space in the world of Red Cloud Realm. But unfortunately, Jian Wushuang had made two-handed preparations earlier, and the Lord of Time and Space had arranged the means of time and space in the surroundings. Even if the pupil really had the incomparable special time and space treasure, he could not leave directly. Therefore he has only one way left, which is to forcibly blast the Jiolong Tiantian formation. However, this Jiolong Tiantian array is performed by Jian Wushuang's divine power, which is now comparable to higher masters. It also has a breath of cosmic magic array inside it, let alone the elementary school pupil. Dominated, even if the top master came in person for a while, it would not be broken. The Jiolong Heavenly Array and the space-time means of the Lord of Time and Space have all been arranged. This pupil has no possibility to escape this void in a short time. Jian Wu's eyes flashed a strong light. My heart is also settled. Compared to Jian Wushuang, the pupil had a sense of confusion at the moment. Repression of class treasures? And looking at this breath, it seems to be stronger than the average peak suppression of class treasures, and the hidden time and space means, the master of the blood sword, his purpose is hard to accomplish. Horrified, staring at the sword unparalleled. In the current situation, it would be too stupid for him to understand the true intentions of Jian Wushuang. With this arrangement, it is clear that the purpose of Jian Wushuang's trip was not to solve the problem with him orally, but to kill him. The Lord of the Blood Sword has delusional attempts to kill me? Hitomi was instantly furious. But this anger only lasted for a moment, and he immediately laughed wildly. Ha! Lord of the Blood Sword, how dare you try it, a ruler of a rule, dare to attempt to kill this seat? Joke, what a joke. This seat is the master who has the strongest armor of the treasure armor. Even the top master may not kill me in person. What is your blood sword master? Jian Wushuang is too lazy to talk nonsense with this pupil, all he has in his eyes is a monstrous killing. At the moment when the Jiutian Fa formation in Jiolong was set up, the statures of the Celestial Alliance leader and the Time and Space Palace owner who have been hiding in the distant space have also appeared, and the position of the Chaos Ho Shoshuang rushed over. Not only you but a helper? Hitomi also sensed the breath of the two masters for the first time. These two breaths, one is the Lord of Time and Space and the other should be the Lord of the Sky. Well, a primary master who is good at time and space means, a high master plus the Lord of the Blood Sword. 3 people. Do you want to completely leave this seat? The corner of the pupil's mouth was slightly tilted, which did not cause the appearance of the two masters in the slightest panic. Chapter 3753. The first is more. He really has nothing to fear. Dignified, he also has the strongest armor of the treasure armor, and his life-saving ability is not weak. Even in the face of a top master, he is sure to protect himself. Now, although they have fallen into the trap set by Jian Wushuang, it is almost impossible to kill him by relying on them alone. At least the pupil himself thinks so. He is now completely trapped in this void by us and he wants to leave in a short time, but there are many strong players in the Red Cloud realm. Someone must have noticed the movement here. The pupil is beheading. Well, do it. Jian Wushuang no longer wastes time. Huang Quan's Excalibur is in his hand, and his power bursts to the extreme in an instant. Wow. Jian Wushuang pointed out directly that there were countless sword shadows lit up in the void. These swords are densely packed, each of them exhaling a heartbreaking breath. Among these countless swords, one is the most dazzling and the most terrifying. This sword shadow is also infinitely enlarged in the pupil of the pupil. Master Tong knows that he is not an opponent of Jian Wushuang, but at this moment in this situation he can't help but shrink back. I saw the red stick that exuded the destruction appeared in his hand, and the red stick extended out, and then smashed down at the most dazzling Jingguang. The two collided, and the power in that sword shadow was obviously far above the pupil's long stick. The red sticks in the pupil's main hands were slightly changed by the split, and the entire body was pulled back towards the back. At this time, the vanguard of the Sky-Slapping Alliance also appeared. The master of the Celestial Alliance holds a 3-meter-long cyan sword. The cyan sword is covered with a thick layer of cyan purple energy, and is taken down by the Celestial Alliance's cyan sword. Wow! Heaven and earth seem to be split directly by this knife. The Lord of the Sky, the name of the sky, is as open as a sword and extremely terrifying. Power is naturally amazing. The pupil's body has just stood firm, and the beast-sharp sword-cutting sword savagely chopped at him. The pupil can only barely wave his red stick to resist. Under the collision, Hitomi snorted. Good power. This Lord of the Sky has not walked in this star field for many years. His strength before is said to be worthy of entering the threshold of higher domination. But now, the power of this sword alone is among the higher dominators. It is also very tyrannical. Hitomi secretly said. The Lord of the Sky, because he had been sitting in the fourth heaven of the kingdom of God in the beginning of the early days, indeed, he has not walked in this star field for a long time. No one came out and walked. No one knew of his strength. But so many years have passed, and the strength of Zhantian Alliance has improved, which is logical. A Lord of the Blood Sword can easily hit me, and now add another Lord of the Sky? He is not only the primary dominating combat power, but also faces two high-level dominating powers. Especially the sword unparalleled combat power is definitely the best among the high domination. The two of them joined together, and the pupil could not cope with it. They were completely crushed and embarrassed, and they had little resistance. However, although the pupil master was crushed and stabbed, he has the strongest armor of the treasure warframe, and the power of the two sword masters and the beheading alliance lord. Most of them are attacked by his strongest treasure warframe. It resisted, and only a very small part of the power effect really applied to his body, causing him little harm. The Lord of the Blood Sword and the Lord of the Cut Heaven Alliance, as I said before, only you two can't kill me at all. Tongzhou laughed wildly. The Demon Lord of the Celestial Alliance sank. The strongest armor ability of the treasure armor is really real. You and I have worked together to suppress him for so long. Several attacks have hit him in the front, which can cause him damage. But still not great, and his divine power is still full. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He could see it too. When I first saw this pupil, I broke out the strongest strength and exerted my strongest sword with the origin of the universe. The sword of Huangquan was only barely for him to vomit blood. Divine power loss is still small. Now, although he has joined forces with the Zhiqian Alliance leader, he has not given up all his strength, and the threat that the Xianshan leader poses to this pupil is also very limited. Jian Tianho, should you have a way? Zhao Qianwu, the leader of the alliance, looked over. Well, look at me. Jian Wushuang nodded, but followed the big hand with a wave. Magic Sand Realm out. Wow, I saw a lot of black quicksand swept out instantly, covering the whole world in an instant, making this huge world into a black magic sand ocean. The pupil in the middle of the black magic sand ocean was naturally suppressed by this quicksand area for the first time. Is it the top-class treasure again? Hitomi's face sank, not surprised. When he met Jian Wushuang for the first time, Jian Wushuang had used this quicksand field to suppress him. He didn't care even if it was suppressed by the field, but the effect of this suppression was limited. At most it weakened his strength slightly. But it appeared in the realm of magic sand. After covering the whole world, Jian Wushuang's eyes became cold again. Shuangguang realm. The secret lines on Zhuangguang's body were illuminated instantly, and time rushed. A lot of dark streamers burst out from the body. These dark streamers, like the magic sand realm just now, are sweeping out sweepingly, covering tens of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. And after these dark streamers appeared, There was no friction or impulse with the previous magic sand realm, but they blended with each other perfectly and blended together. Black magic sand, surrounded by a lot of dark streamers, flooded the world. Shuangguang realm and Masha realm are the perfect combination. Realm oppression. Jian Wushuang whispered. Tom. Boom boom. The world shook. The power of terror broke out, and the frosted black frost surrounding the whole body hit everything crazy, as if even heaven and earth could be easily hanged. At the core of this field, the pupil is only suppressed by the magic sand field at the beginning, but it is not at the heart, but now facing the new field oppression formed by the combination of the two areas of the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand field. Hitomi's figure is so stingy that he almost doesn't stand still. He only felt a tremendous power to oppress him, making him domineering, a little breathless. Chapter 37:54. Second more. How can it be? How could this field be so overbearing? Hitomi's face changed dramatically. He alone wouldn't care too much about the oppression of the domain-like treasures alone. But now the combination of the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand realm is significantly stronger than that of the top peak realm. The oppression brought to the pupil by this moment is not much worse than even the strongest domain-class arcana. Hitomi's entire body was severely restricted, and his strength was immediately weakened. Moreover, the impact of this kind of oppression in the field is not only on his strength but also on his response, speed and so on. However, no matter how much pressure the field has imposed on him, it still has little effect on his body protection ability. Suddenly Jianwu's body moved. A ghostly streamer phantom flashed across. The pupil master had no time to respond, but Jian Wushuang still appeared on his side, and Huangquan's Excalibur had also come coldly. What? Hitomi was startled. Too fast, the pupil master did not capture Jian Wushuang's figure at all, and the cold Huangquan Excalibur had already been cut on his body. The sound of a metal impact sounded, and Hitomi's main figure trembled slightly. This is the frontal split of the body. The middle pupil did not use any means or attack to resist. Although he has the strongest treasure of the armor, he resisted 99% of the attack power, but the last one part of the mighty power still shakes his deity, leaving a hint of blood spilling from the corners of his mouth. The strength of the Lord of the Blood Sword is much stronger than that of the Celestial Alliance. If he can't resist the sword technique and hit me directly, I will be hurt as well. The pupil's face was slightly sinking. He also knew from the bottom of his heart that although he was capable of protecting his body, he couldn't completely ignore the sword's attack. At least the swordplay performed by the sword unparalleled, if he does not resist at all, and if she relies purely on the body to resist, even if he has the strongest armor of the treasure, he will still be injured. Although the injury was very light, but he was bombarded again and again, his injury would become heavier and he would naturally consume more and more power. Sure enough, even if it is too late to cast the strongest swordplay, it is possible for me to explode at my current strength. Even if it is a random swordplay, as long as it is split directly on him, I can still hurt him. Jian Wushuang also realized this, cannot help but sneer. He doesn't want to be able to quickly kill the pupil. As long as he can hurt the opponent, this is enough. Followed by, the ghostly streamers and phantoms flashed and changed in the sky. It's too fast and weird. Every time it flickers, it can easily appear in the void outside Baijiang, just as if it were moved nearby. The pupil has released the power of the soul to the greatest extent, but he found that his power of the soul cannot keep up with Jian Wushuang's physical change at all. This. Mr. Hitomi opened his eyes wide, his face horrified. But Jian Wushuang has shot again and again. Every time he shot, he relied on the Shuangguang phantom to move closer, constantly changing his position so that the pupil could not react too late. And each of the swordsmanships he performed, although not his strongest swordsmanship, were extremely fast, with extremely strong puncture power, and the pupil master had no time to resist. Clang, 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 clang. Only a sound of metal-like impact sounded one after another. The pupil is completely reduced to a living target, surrounded by swordsmanship that Sword Wushuang attacked from all sides. All the sword lights were hardly hindered, and they hit the main pupil positively. In a short time, the pupil of the pupil has endured dozens of sword light of Jian Wushuang. It's terrible, he's so terrible. I can't stop it, I can't resist it at all. Hitomi was trembling inside. At the beginning he was not in a hurry, thinking that Jian Wushuang could not kill him at all. Even if he joined forces with the master of the Celestial Alliance, he could at best beat him. But now, under the pressure of that terrible realm, Jian Wushuang showed this horrible figure, so that he could face the sword skill of Jian Wushuang only with stare. It's like a living target, allowing Jian Wushuang to attack madly, but he has no room to resist. Under such a crazy attack, even if he has the strongest armor of the treasure armor, each sword of Jian Wushuang has limited damage to his body. He will not care if he attacks twice or 10 times. Such an attack will withstand more and more damage to his divine body, and the divine power will naturally be consumed slowly. The most frightening thing is that he has no way to face Jian Wushuang's attack. He had tried his best to resist Jian Wushuang's attack, but it was useless. He simply encountered Jian Wushuang's half-dressed horns, and Jian Wushuang's sword hit, and he couldn't react at all. How could this be? How could this Lord of the Blood Sword have such an incredible body form? Trouble? Hitomi was finally anxious. The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space, who were next to him, saw this scene with no light in their eyes. I didn't expect Tianhou Xiaoyu to have such a terrible stature. No wonder he can be so sure to kill this pupil. The Master of Time and Space was excited. This body changed time and time, is like moving in space and time, and it is still moving close, changing positions instantly, appearing in all corners around it. This body style is really a bit scary. As far as I know, Jian Tianhou hadn't mastered such a body form before. Could it be the strongest flying treasure? The ancestral Lord of the Sky could not help looking at the pair of black wings behind Jian Wushuang. At this moment, the Lord of the Cut Heavens has completely stopped and let Jian Wushuang take the shot against that pupil. Under the watchful eyes of the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space, the pupil is completely unable to resist the swordsmanship sword art. The body is damaged again and again, and the divine power has been consumed. Not long, the pupil's divine power is consumed after more than 10%, the breath on the body naturally weakened a lot. There is a play. If it continues like this for at least an additional quarter of an hour, the pupil's divine power will be exhausted. At that time he will surely die. The eyes of the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space all lighted up. At this moment they really saw the hope of beating the pupil from Jian Wushuang. The pupil, of course, is also very clear about the situation in front of him. At the same time, he also knows that if he continues this way he can be really dangerous. Remember the first domain name in this book. Emperor Jiutian. Chapter 3755. The first is more. This void has been completely suppressed. I see NT escape at all and I am fighting on the front. The Lord of the Blood Sword is far stronger than me, especially his strange body skills, which makes me completely unable to resist. Divine power consumed too quickly. No, I can't go on like this. Hitomi's eyes were gloomy. He understood that if he continued this way, he would die without a doubt when his divine power was completely exhausted. There is no way but to use that treasure. The pupil master was determined, and there was an astonishing killing in his eyes. Lord of the Blood Sword, this is what you forced. With a loud snoring, Tongzhu turned his hands and took out something. What did he come up with? The Lord of the Skycut Alliance and the Lord of Time and Space stood in the surrounding void and immediately locked their eyes. That's gourd? Jian Wushuang also saw what Tongzhu took out. That is a blood-colored gourd. At first glance, this blood-colored gourd is no different from an ordinary gourd, and Jian Wushuang can't immediately sense anything special from this blood-colored gourd. But the pupil looked at the red gourd in his hand, but his eyes had become scarlet. It was a frenzy. It's as if he doesn't have a gourd in his hand, but an earth-shattering thing that is enough to make the pupil the ultimate treasure in despair. This pupil, almost conspicuously, was driven to an end by me. At this time he took out this gourd. What's in that gourd? Jian Wushuang frowned. Haha, baby, my baby, wake up. Mr. Hitomi issued a big laugh of Senleng. This laughter resounded in the surrounding void, and at the same time he had opened the gourd stopper. Suddenly, a suffocating and mighty might suddenly burst out from the gourd. It was a dark flame, and the flame was cold enough to tremble the master. It burst out from the blood-colored gourd, and the void of this red cloud world seemed to be unable to withstand the power of this black flame, and it was directly defeated. Then a large block of black flames beating madly, blasting towards Hitomi's main body. In the blink of an eye, Hitomi's entire body was wrapped in that monstrous black flame, and his body skyrocketed. A suffocating and terrifying breath spread from the pupil, directly oppressing the audience. This terrible breath has greatly affected the surrounding area of Masha Shuangguang, which has been flooded all the time. The suppression effect in that area has been greatly reduced. This is it? Jian Wushuang stared at the pupil in front of him in surprise. Not only him but also the next Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space were also shocked. They couldn't believe that the person standing in front of them turned out to be the pupil. Although his appearance has completely changed, the breath on his body has changed dramatically. Originally, the pupil was only an elementary master, and although his strength was stronger, the breath of divine power was at most close to that of the higher master. But now, under the cover of the black flames, the pupil's breath of spirit has soared several times. The terrible and monstrous breath is definitely much higher than that of the higher masters. Even if compared with the top masters, it seems that the gap is not large. Not only the breath of divine power, but also the origin of the soul of the pupil, seems to have undergone some subtle changes at this moment. The Lord of the Blood Sword. A deep hissing sound emanated from the main pupil's mouth, and there was a bruise on his face, and his face was completely twisted. There was unprecedented anger in those eyes. The ruler of your district can force this seat. Use your baby to summon the body of the magic flame. Even if it is dead, you are proud. The body of the magic flame? Jianwu's eyes narrowed slightly. Let's go to hell. Hitomi's eyes flashed sharply, and the red stick that he held tightly in his hand burst out instantly. Boom! The air was torn apart forcibly. The red stick that exudes endless destruction, at this moment burst out several times faster and powerful than before, and appeared in front of Jianwu Shuang in a flash. Jianwu Shuang was stunned. He could cast the Shuangguang Phantom to resist it for the first time, but after a while thinking, he chose to wave the Huangquan Excalibur and greeted him directly. Spark burning sun. Wow! An extremely violent sword light, fiercely cut out, collided directly with the Tong Tong stick. With this impact, the sword Wu Shuang immediately sensed a powerful force coming from the Huangquan Excalibur. Under the impact of this mighty power, his entire body figure shivered a few steps back. Of course, the pupil's figure also receded, but he just stood back after just 3 steps back. This. Jianwu Shuang's head was cyanotic. The next Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space are also shocked. Hitomi is just a primary master. 5,000 years ago, when Jianwu Shuang first met the pupil, he could easily hit him. The second meeting, that is, in the Battle of Shuangguang Yantiani, he and the axe dominated the two. Jianwu Shuang can easily be crushed. In terms of strength, Jianwu Shuang is much stronger than Hitomi. This is well known. But now, Jianwu Shuang collided head-on with this pupil, but it turned out that the pupil had a little upper hand. As soon as the pupil used the body of the magic flame, his strength suddenly rose to such a point. He seems to have more power now than I do, so there is no need to confront him. Although Jianwu Shuang shocked Hitomi's soaring strength, he was still very calm inside, and he quickly shot again. This time he didn't choose to collide with Hitomi. Instead, he used the Shuangguang Phantom to move near him and rely on his body to keep attacking. The pupil after the possession of the demon flame has soared in strength, and is almost close to the top master, but even if his strength has been greatly improved in the face of the horrible figure of Jianwu Shuang, he is only reduced to a living target. Call out! Call out! Call out! Call out! Call out! I saw the icy Jingguang ruthlessly bombarding the pupil. As before, in the face of Jianwu Shuang's sword skills with the help of body skills, the pupil is completely unable to resist. However, after the possession of the demon flame, the heavy black flame on the surface of the body also contained an extremely powerful protective effect. Any attack by Jianwu Shuang has to be weakened by this heavy black flame, and finally hit the main body of Hitomi, which will cause less damage to Hitomi's body. Chapter 3756. Second more. Haha, Lord of the Blood Sword, do you dare to rely on your body to fight with this seat? Just like flies flying around, there is no meaning at all. If you have the ability, you will be in front of this seat. Confrontation. Master Tong laughed, but at the same time his face grew more and more stubborn and distorted. Jianwu Shuang didn't bother to care about him, just kept shooting. After attacking again and again, the main body of Hitomi will still be damaged, and the divine power is still being consumed. But the speed of this consumption is much slower than before. It's too slow. If it is consumed at this rate, it will take at least an hour or two when his divine power is completely consumed. Jianwu Shuang frowned. Ah, Lord of the Blood Sword, aren't you strong? But your sword attack is on this seat, but you are tickling this seat. With such strength, do you want to kill me? It's a joke. Master Tong continued to sneer. Hitomi, you are just using your whole cards, not to mention that even if you have a whole card, you will still be a living target in front of me. What is the only thing you want to be proud of? Jianwu Shuang's cold laughter sounded at the same time, and even if you use this flame body, it will be more difficult for me to kill you, but it will only take some time. Anyway, you are trapped in this void and can't escape at all, let's consume it slowly. I can't kill you in a short time, but after an hour or two I don't believe you can hold it. 1 or 2 hours? Hitomi stared but then smiled. Master of the Blood Sword, you can't be confused as a seat of this seat? You are now controlling 2 major domain methods at the same time, as well as the suppression method battlefield, and has been using such a terrifying body, repeatedly performing swordsmanship to kill me. Although this time and again my divine power is indeed consumed, but your divine power is consumed more. You are just the master of a rule. Even if the divine power is more vast than the main rule of ordinary rules, where can it go? Such a consumption 1 or 2 hours, can you sustain it? Hitomi is telling the truth. Jianghu Shuang now has too many tools to cast. Manipulating the Shanhe Club to exhibit the Jiulong Tianmao formation in Kowloon, and the Shuangguang realm and the magic sand field at the same time, and he has always used the Shuangguang phantom array in the Zhuangguanjian sky wing to move closer and closer, constantly looking for opportunities to Hitomi. The Lord does damage. Any of these means requires the provision of magnificent divine power. Not to mention the ruler, even if it is the true master at the same time using so many arrogant means, it will definitely not persist for too long, and the divine power will be completely consumed. However, the pupil did not know that Jianghu Shuang was a special life. It is also a special life of perfect grade. The level of life reaches the perfect stage, and its power is far more than the domain and imagination of the master. The master and even the master of other rules, it is certainly impossible to carry out so many means for 1 or 2 hours, but for Jianghu Shuang, it is absolutely supportive. Even Jianghu Shuang's heart had already been budgeted, and he continued to consume it at his own speed. After 1 or 2 hours, his power was at most 30%. In that case, what is he to worry about? Hitomi, then he'll take a look. Who can get to the end? Jianghu Shuang smiled coldly, but accelerated his shot speed. Huh. Hitomi snorted coldly and was trying to find a way to resist Jianghu Shuang's attack, and he was constantly trying to counterattack. But in the presence of Jianghu Shuang's body, all this is futile. Half an hour passed quickly. In these half hours, Jianghu Shuang never stopped attacking Hitomi. During this period he had no idea how many swordsmanships he had performed were hitting Hitomi positively. But even with such a storm, Hitomi's divine power has now been consumed by only 40%. However, the consumption of 40% of the divine power caused the pupil's look to change again. The Lord of the Blood Sword at the same time exerted so many methods and continued to attack me like storms. According to his reason, his divine power has been exhausted long ago. But looking at his current state, this divine power is still full now. While receiving the Sword Warrior attack, the pupil master has also been paying attention to the Sword Warrior. He wanted to wait for Jianghu Shuang's divine power to exhaust himself, but for half an hour, Jianghu Shuang's divine power was still abundant, and the storm-like attack never stopped. Monster, the Lord of the Blood Sword is really a monster. Tong Zhu scolded in the bottom of his heart, but he still didn't have any fear. The Lord of the Blood Sword, it seems that this seat despises you, but your divine power is sufficient, more than consumed, and this seat is better than you, but even so, if you want to kill me, you are still almost. Hitomi sneered. Jianghu Shuang frowned slightly. It's all over this section, but the pupil is so confident? Could it be possible? Is there any other whole card he has never played? However, the whole card method used by the pupil is terrible enough, and then he will take out another whole card. Is it unlikely? And if there is no other whole card, where does the pupil believe that he can survive? Jianghu Shuang was puzzled. But at this moment, the master of the Spacetime Temple standing next to him, but suddenly changed his face and said, Heavenly friend, just got a report from a ruler of my Spacetime Temple, saying that he is 10,000 miles away from us. Somewhere, I saw Domination Hong, and the Domination Hong was very fast all the way. It seems that it is likely to be coming towards our place. What? The main features of Jianghu Shuang and Jiqian League are all changed. Dominate Hong? Grabbing towards where they are? Haha, finally coming? After hearing the words of the Lord of Time and Space, the pupil laughed wildly. The Lord of the Blood Sword, I have to say that the means you arranged this time is really good, and the first chance to escape was blocked. And your strength and the means you prepared are even more arbitrary. If you don't have a baby bodyguard, you might really be killed by you. But unfortunately, you have made a mistake. You have made a mistake. This seat has not been killed by you in a short time, and when you deal with this seat, there must be many discoveries in the surrounding void. This news naturally, it circulated in the Red Cloud realm for the first time, and naturally it was introduced into the ears of Master Hong. Master Hong, although he did not have a deep friendship with this seat, but by chance he owed a favor to this seat, and this seat has his messenger sign on hand, although it was completely banned by you because of time and space. For this reason, there is no way to summon it, but Master Hong knew that my life was threatened and would still come to his rescue. Emperor Jiuqian. Chapter 3757. The first is more. Trouble? The look of the Lord of the Celestial Sect and the Lord of the Temple of Time and Space has become extremely ugly. Dominated by Hong, it is a very ancient and domineering dominate. In terms of combat power, although he has not yet reached the top dominating level, he is definitely the strongest among the higher dominates. Most importantly, this Hong dominates is extremely difficult. Like Jian Wushuang, Hong's body protection ability is extremely good, but Jian Wushuang's body protection ability is famous because of his body sword skills. Once the earth guarded, even the top masters could not forcibly break. And this Hong master, his body protection ability relies on his body. Dominated by Hong, he is an extremely rare Jinshi tribe among special ethnic groups. The Jinshi tribe is not good at attacking and killing, but the body is inherently powerful. After reaching the high level of domination, this Hong-dominated body is definitely stronger than many top masters, and when he was in the 3 battlefields, chance coincidence he got an extremely powerful mysticism, which made his body more terrible. Although he does not have the strongest treasure armor, but just the peak of the treasure armor, but still enough to cause headaches for many top masters. He has also played against the top masters and he still has 2 enough. As a result, the 2 top masters have nothing to do with him. Such a terrible master who has strong strength and strong body protection ability is about to resist this battlefield, but is also the rescuer of the pupil. This is certainly not good news for Jian Wushuang. With a range of tens of thousands of miles at the speed of Hong's domination, I am afraid that it can be reached in a short time. At that time, with the help of Hong's dominator, we will not have the opportunity to kill this pupil. Jian Wu's eyes were also sinking. The arrival of Master Hong, this is what Jian Wushuang did not expect. You know, the pupil's reputation in this star field has not been good. He has a lot of offensive powers and he has never heard of his best friends. However, I did not expect that the Lord Zhu Hong had owed the favor of the pupil, and that Lord Zhu Hong was just on the 3rd continent, so he was able to come over in such a short time. What to do? The master of the Celestial Alliance frowned. Tianho Xiaoyu, otherwise we are leaving now and we will try again next time. If we leave now, neither the Lord of Heaven or the Lord of Time and Space will be very reconciled. But if they are not reconciled, there is nothing they can do. The pupil doesn't know where to get such a strong hole card, which is enough to persist for so long in Jianwu without both hands. Looking at the current situation, Jianwu swung before killing Tong. Master Hong must have arrived already. Haha, Lord of the Blood Sword, aren't you giving up yet? Hitomi's flames rolled all over his body, but his eyes were full of unprecedented madness. Jianwu's eyes were cold. He stared at the pupil in front of him, feeling the breath of the pupil. It was so difficult to force this pupil to the point where he is now. If he gives up, he will be extremely vigilant next time, and it will be difficult to find such a good opportunity to kill him in the future. Jian Wushuang muttered, down a decision was made at a moment, it seems that only one trick can be used. Jian Wu blinked Lyman in his eyes, followed his thoughts. Boom. The void shook slightly. A large amount of black air flow swept up suddenly, covering the vast void around in a blink of an eye. God, it went dark. Without the clouds of blood above, without the light, the whole world is in absolute darkness. Silence. The whole world is silent. Here? The pupil is still standing in front of the void, but at this moment he is looking around with amazement. Not only him, but also the Lord of the Skycut Alliance and the Lord of Time and Space who were next to each other. They don't know what happened, but as masters, they can feel very clearly that the world at this moment is very different from just now. They even felt as if they were no longer in the world and the universe. That is the law of the universe, the breath of the law of the universe. It turned out to be a means of containing the laws of the universe? Oh my God. The Lord of the Cut Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time were stunned. Although they are in the same camp with Jian Wushuang, they need not say more about their relationship with Jian Wushuang. However, they didn't know much about Jianshi's whole cards. For example, Jian Wushuang's current trick is not known before. Now seeing Jian Wushuang exhibiting it, the extremely strong cosmic laws that filled the surrounding world have shocked both of them. Talented supernatural powers, primitive universe. Jian Wushuang stood at the center of this darkness. The whole man was completely integrated with the surrounding dark world, and his face was a touch of excitement. Primitive universe. At the beginning, the law of the universe came and gave him the gift of supernatural power. This move is the strongest whole card in the swordless hands. Since getting this talented supernatural power, he has never really performed it, let alone show it to others. Even on weekdays he has not had the opportunity to perform and experience the power of this primitive universe. Until now, in order to slay the pupil, the two sides of the sword have really performed this trick. As soon as the primitive universe appeared, the vast void covered by the black air flow was all under the control of Sword Master. Jianghu Shuang has added a sense of absolute control. This feeling of control is like a move in his mind. If there is a ruler in the primitive universe, he can wipe it out instantly, no matter how much. At the same time, at this moment he is also fused with the primitive universe, and his overall strength has reached a whole new level. This feeling is so powerful, it seems to be omnipotent. Jianghu Shuang clenched his hands and was very excited. But excited and excited, Jianghu Shuang will not forget what he should do now. 10 breaths. The duration of the primitive universe is only 10 breaths. Within 10 minutes must kill him. The sword has no intention of killing. As soon as the Shuangguang Phantom was cast, his shape appeared like a ghost on the side of Hitomi. Before in the primitive universe, the pupil master had no choice but to face Jianghu Shuang's body, but now naturally there is no room for resistance. Long Huangquan. Jianghu Shuang directly out of the sword. Cold and ruthless, as if able to tear everything in front. Jianghu Shuang's strongest sword, there is even a hint of the law of the universe in the sword light. Under the blessing of the primitive universe, this cold and ruthless sword light directly hit the pupil. Emperor Jiuqian. Chapter 3758. Second more. Wow. Scary enough to tear all the sword light, split on the pupil's strongest treasure battle armor, even the strongest treasure battle armor, under this sword light, left a deep white mark. At the same time a mighty power hits the pupil's body through this strongest treasure. What? Hitomi stared. He was horrified to find that the sword of Wu Shuang had directly killed 3% of his divine power. You know, after he summoned the demon flame, his body protection ability skyrocketed. Sword warriors had performed so many swordsmanships before, and each sword's depletion of his power would not exceed 1,000th. After half an hour he just wiped out more than 40% of the divine power. But now, Sword Wu Shuang one sword directly annihilates his 3% of the power? In other words, the power of Jianghu Shuang's sword light has been improved by dozens of times? Top dominating combat power. Absolutely, the top masters are eligible for the attack, and they are the kind of top masters who are better at attacking and killing. Hitomi was completely panicked. He has the strongest armor of the treasure and summons the flame body. Even if he meets the average top master, he will not be too afraid. Although Jianghu Shuang did not have the top dominating combat power before, his physical skills were too unreasonable. He continued to move his sword skills close to him, leaving him unable to resist and can only become a living target. The threat he poses is slightly stronger than the average top master. But he can still face this threat. And now, on the basis of having such incredible body style, Jianghu Shuang's attack power has soared dozens of times instantly, reaching the level of top master. It was definitely a demon to him. Hitomi, let's die. Jianghu Shuang clenched his pressure, and cast a mystic light phantom and shot lightningly. I saw a strange and arrogant sword light one after another cut towards the pupil of the pupil. Under the blessing of the primitive universe, the swordplay he performed, even if it was just ordinary swordplay, that power had reached the level of top masters. The pupils can't resist, they can only rely on their own body but resist. As a result, the sword light bombarded, and the speed of the pupil's divine power was tens of times faster than before. You know, he only has about 50% of his power left. No. Stop it, Lord of the Blood Sword, stop it now. The pupil was finally anxious and finally panicked. He can clearly sense that his divine power is going crazy. The terrible speed is that he can't stop or change. Jianghu Shuang did not intend to stop at all. After 3 breaths, Hitomi's divine power is only 30%. After 6 breaths, Hitomi's divine power is only 10%. At the 8th breath, dead. The sword has no intention of killing in the eyes, and the Huangquan Excalibur in his hand cuts out with an unprecedented violent meaning. Jian Guang split wildly on Hitomi's body. Do not. Hitomi screamed hysterically, his eyes rolled round, his eyes filled with terror and despair. And this sword directly annihilated the last part of the divine power left by the pupil, and his voice was immediately cut off. Call? Did you finally die? Seeing that the main pupil was cut off, Jianghu Shuang also exhaled lightly. I have to say that this pupil is really difficult to entangle. I can say that he took out all the means to forcefully kill him. And for such a long time of killing, especially since the primitive universe has just been triggered, Even though he is not easy, he consumes a lot of divine power. Of course, although he consumes a lot of divine power, his combat power is still at its peak. Let's go. When Jian Wushuang moved his mind, the surrounding primitive universe began to converge. The dark and primitive universe soon disappeared and returned to its original appearance. Later, Jian Wushuang came to the void where Master Tong was fallen, where there was a red stick, a battle armor, and a Chenkuan ring. These are all left by Hitomi. As for Hitomi's body, he naturally collapses with his death. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and all these things left by the pupil master were included in the Chenkuan ring, but the bottom of his heart was thoughtful. This pupil, although he is not very good, is only a primary master, but his life-saving ability is good, and he also has a lot of cards in his hands, especially the last fire flame. It seems that he has had many opportunities in these 3 battlefields in the past few years. He'll have to look up his fortune in waiting for the meeting. Primary Master Jian Wushuang is not without killing. The 3 primary masters like Demon Star died in his hands. Jian Wushuang also checked the 3 rings of the 3 of them, but did not get anything. In addition, the 3 dominating powers of Magic Cloud Star are not weak, but the whole cards in their hands seem to be more general. But this pupil, his life-saving ability is not the same as the whole card. Jian Tianho. Heavenly Friend. The Lord of the Celestial Alliance and the Lord of the Space and Time Palace have come to the sword unparalleled. Amazing. As soon as the Lord of the Cuts came to Jian Wushuang, he couldn't help but admire. What kind of method did you just cast that actually made your strength soar all of a sudden? And then there is about 50% of the pupil. Divine power, was you killed in such a short time? Heavenly Friend, if the old man is not mistaken, what you have just cast should be an extremely unique mystery, right? The Lord of Time and Space also looked over. After seeing these 2 people asking, Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile. 2 people, they don't hide each other. After I refined the small astral world transformed by the 7-star divine realm, the law of the universe came to me personally. It gave me a very powerful willpower and at the same time gave me a talent. I just performed, which is the gifted magical power given by the laws of the universe. Talented. The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space looked at each other, and a flash of anxiety flashed in their eyes. No wonder it is so. It turned out to be personally given by the laws of the universe. The Master of Space and Time sighed, but there was a hint of envy among the eyebrows. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang smiled. The 2 don't have to be envious. Although my talent is amazing, there are also some restrictions. For example, this talent can only be performed once every 12 hours, and every time at most, it can only last 10 times. 10 breaths? That's pretty good too. The leader of the Celestial Alliance laughed. He and the Lord of Time and Space can also understand that such a powerful talent, if not even a little restriction, it would be too perverted. Emperor Jiuqian. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.